Instead, they arrested and kept the son of their alleged paymaster in police custody without opening a case. Hawks spokesperson in Mpumalanga, Dineo Sekgotodi, says the police officers in question later handed in only 200,000 rand of the money seized from the house.
Crime intelligence was summoned to the police station. On their arrival, they phoned the police officers to come back to the police station. Upon their return, they produced the amount of 200,000 rand, which they alleged was found at the paymaster's house. The complainant, who is the son of the paymaster, opened a case of theft of cash against the 4 police officials. The 4 police members were arrested, charged, and detained at the Nelspruit police cells.
Gauteng police have refuted claims by the Westbury community in Johannesburg that there is a lack of police visibility in the area, resulting in the increase of gang-related violence. Some locals say they live in fear and are forced to stay indoors from 6 p.m. every evening for fear of being caught in the crossfire during the ongoing turf war between rival gangs. Gauteng Police Commissioner Toby Mtombeni believes there is sufficient police in the area. International Relations Minister in Namibia, Bea Moshelenga, says the country is ready to host the National Assembly and presidential elections in 2 weeks' time. The ruling party in Namibia, SWAPO, is facing stiff competition from other political parties. It has been in power since independence in 1990. The party has elected a female candidate who is also the vice president of the country, Netumbo Nandi Ndwaita, to be their presidential candidate. Recapping the top story, the bail application of diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg's wife Desiree has been postponed to Thursday next week. The couple have appeared in the Brockhansford Magistrate Court in Pretoria along with the 7 other co-accused. I am Ondilambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Proteas all set for India. Hugo Broos calls 2024 a fantastic year for South African football after Bafana qualified for AFCON, and UWC coach approaching AS FarCap Women's Clash as a final. More details at 3:30.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
I tell you what, one of the conversations that should move you has got to be the issue of guns. I made the point, I think a few weeks ago, in fact, to say, obviously crime is crime and it's bad news, okay? But if you have criminal intent and you've got a pocket knife or you've got a dagger or you've got a gun, there's a better chance that you're actually going to kill a person with a gun, and there's a better chance you'll probably kill more than one person with a gun, especially if you're in a completely violent environment. Now, I say that because we'll talk about that just now here on the show. This is the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome indeed to the show. Thank you for giving up your time. Looking forward to you listening, number one, but also you engaging with me. And you can engage on multiple ways, of course, you know that. A, by calling in 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp, you have the option to voice note us 0614 104 107, or you can text on that same number. You can tweet, just tag us SAFM Radio. Do do tag and follow me, Ashraf Garda. Do the same on Facebook as well. You've got multiple ways of connecting. And also, not just listening on the radio, but you can listen on streaming live. You can, in fact, watch us on streaming live. Just follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You'll see us visually, but also on the SABC Plus app as well. So many ways we've got you covered. A lot to talk about, including Donald Trump's UN policy. That's really interesting. We'll also talk about the latest issues around climate change. That's so important. And then after 5 o'clock, we'll chat to Ria Ledwaba. She's my guest in the fireside chat. And you know what's the good news? You can join us to 5 to 6 o'clock. But let's get to the issue that I just touched on first up. Right now, in the context of what I spoke about guns, we have with us Claire Taylor, who's a researcher for Gun Free South Africa. Claire, appreciate your time. You are connected. In fact, we'll get to Claire in just a moment, right? Okay, maybe a couple of things that I just want to ask you. Do you concur with me and my view that at least if you don't have guns, no matter what the intent is, it will limit the amount of people dying? So think about that and give me your thoughts too. Claire Taylor is with me, researcher for Gun Free South Africa, which is GFSA. Claire, appreciate your time. You are connected to the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf.
Thank you. Now, outside of my own personal opinion, Claire, your thoughts matter because I understand that your organization has put together some research around the use of firearms and making the comparison between people dying because of firearms, being shot at, versus people dying from accidents, road traffic accidents in our country. So tell me, what does the research say?
But just to correct the impression, Ashraf, it wasn't Gun Free South Africa who put together this research. It was the Medical Research Council. And what it's based on is mortuary data. So in 2020, 2021, they did a nationally representative sample of all mortuaries across South Africa. They do this every 10 years. Although this was an exception because of the COVID period. And there's a lot of interest in South Africa globally in terms of the impact of the alcohol restrictions and restrictions on movements, on violence and other non-natural deaths.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I get that, right? Yeah. Okay, got it.
So the research looks at all the ways that people are killed in South Africa. And so, for example, it looks at how many people died on our roads, how many people were murdered, and then it also profiles how people were murdered. And what we see in this study is that guns are the leading weapon used in murder, and that more people were shot dead than died on our roads in 4 provinces. So also just say that we know from police crime statistics that the situation has gotten worse since the mortuary data was undertaken. But even at that time, the researchers note, and I'm quoting from the report, the increase in firearm violence has been observed since 2010 and has been linked to poor enforcement of gun control legislation and an increase in the availability of both illegal and legal firearms. So they are linking this increase directly to the fact that we have too many guns in our communities, and part of the reason for that is because of poor enforcement of our gun law.
Okay, so therefore, clearly where you sit at Gun Free South Africa, I mean, it's an issue that your organization has raised for many, many years, right? So firstly, in the light of, and it's an interesting word I'm going to use, in the light of the ammunition you have with the latest research, what are you now saying? What is your position?
So Gun Free South Africa, as you know, Ashraf, we've been lobbying for many years, particularly since we started noting the increase in gun violence from 2010, for the enforcement of the Firearms Control Act and for a focus on recovering and destroying illegal firearms in communities. And it really has been difficult because, for a few reasons. I think the one is that many people feel that gun legislation is primarily involving gun dealers, gun owners, gun businesses, etc. And there isn't a sense that actually gun control affects all of us. We're all living in a community, in a society, in a country where 33 people are shot dead every day, where more people are shot dead than die on our roads. So gun control is an issue for everybody in this country. And I think it's only now, particularly with the new government that's come, that was elected, that we're starting to see a recognition of the importance of dealing with the gun violence crisis in South Africa.
So interesting you say that it's only now. Are you saying, in spite of the years of lobbying from Gun Free SA and maybe others too, and the obvious numbers of people who are dying through being killed, on a daily basis, you're saying it has never been an agenda issue in our previous form of government?
So in some, there are pockets and moments where it does reach the broader agenda. But one of the problems that we have is that the police feel that gun control is their issue. And to say, like, in 2010, there was a task team established to explore problems at the Central Firearms Registry, which is the police unit responsible for the registration of firearms and licenses. At that time, a number of inefficiencies were identified, which are a real problem because what they allow is licensed guns to leak into criminal hands. If you don't know who owns what guns, where they are, where those guns are, it's very easy for those guns to leak into criminal hands. In 2010, a number of inefficiencies were identified at the Central Firearms Registry. 14 years later, those issues are still a problem. And the SAPs in 2010 were clear. We can deal with this. This is our mandate. We'll manage the process. And they haven't done. And Gun Free South Africa keeps putting the message across. The control of firearms is not just a policing issue. It's an all-of-government issue. And we need to be taking it seriously and developing a strategy that involves all of government. So, for example, why are firearms not removed from domestic violence situations? What's happening there? How is it possible that sports shooters are able to accumulate massive amounts of ammunition? Why are there no controls over that? Why is the private security industry not being more effectively overseen?
So what's your answer to those rhetorical questions?
So those answers are really twofold. The one is that government needs to take the firearms crisis seriously, and that entails not leaving it just with that. So the police, military, and other government departments need to be involved. And the second is for our government to realize that they don't have to do this alone, that under various protocols that South Africa has signed that oblige our country to keep, for example, accurate records of firearms, we can actually request technical assistance from other organizations. It's not something that we have to do alone. But we do have to ask for help. And at the moment, SAPS is refusing to even acknowledge the problem. And there hasn't been a call out for assistance and support. In the meantime, 33 people are shot dead every day.
But what would be your understanding of why would SAPS refuse to, understand or admit the problem? Like, it's so obvious.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's seen as a security issue only and that firearms are to do with that. I don't know if there's a concern about giving it up. I mean, just to say that one of the things that Gun Free South Africa has been exploring is, and we researched other countries' experiences of this, is taking the Central Firearms Registry away from the police. At the moment, the registry sits within visible policing. Now, visible policing has got no expertise in database management. Why would it have? So it would make sense for it to be taken away and lodged, for example, with another government department. For example, this is just an example, the Department of Home Affairs has got a range of databases that it manages around births, deaths, marriages, etc. So there are other departments that may have more expertise and knowledge that would better run the database. And there's been absolute resistance from the police. And maybe it is because it facilitates corruption. Who knows? So that is one of the things that we need to really get to the bottom of is also dealing with the corruption within the police.
And to go back to the title of your organization, and I would think maybe the ultimate vision, I mean, are you still pushing for a gun-free South Africa, which means no guns, or are you talking about a regulated, gun-controlled South Africa?
So Gun Free South Africa's vision is in our name. We are committed to a gun-free South Africa, but we are also very pragmatic, and we are completely evidence-based. So the problem at the moment is handguns, and so we have to focus on ways of controlling handguns. The problem at the moment is guns that are domestically held, so by citizens and by the state, that are feeding the illegal market. So we have to focus on tightening controls over those guns. And while porous borders are a problem for a range of reasons, the data indicates that our biggest problem is licensed guns held by the state and citizens. And we have to control that to stop criminals being armed.
And when linked to the issue of licensed guns, one is obviously people being licensed who may not be fit enough to be licensed, to be able to now to handle a gun, and three, the fact that many criminals would rob people purely because of the gun, which potentially is worth far more than even 10,000 rands in terms of what it can bring them, isn't it?
Yes. So firearm loss and theft is a real problem. I hope I understood your question properly. I didn't hear it properly. Is that so people acquire firearms, and it makes sense. We live in a country with really high levels of crime and violence. We're all looking at ways to protect ourselves. But one of the risks is that the gun gets stolen. And we have civilians report the loss or theft of, on average, 23 guns every day in this country.
Oh, my goodness.
The police report the loss or theft of 2 guns every day. It's a huge problem. And so we have to tighten our controls over licensed guns to stop both the leakage through loss and theft, but also criminal use. You know, there was a case recently where 4 extortionists were injured in a shootout with the police. All of them had licensed firearms. We know that in domestic violence shootings, the majority of which are committed with licensed firearms. So we can't only focus on illegal guns and recovery and destruction of them. We also need to go upstream and better regulate licensed gun stocks.
Okay, so finally, you're now armed with this new knowledge. What do you intend to do next?
We talk to people like you, Ashraf, and we raise the alarm. We say this is an absolute crisis. We've been saying this for a number of years now, but it really has reached epidemic proportions.
Why do you think, just lastly, I mean, I've often said this, that if we treat, as government, if we treat gun-related violence and gun-related killings as seriously as we treated or dealt with COVID-19, we would declare it exactly that, an absolute crisis that requires a standstill of our economy. Why do you think we don't do that? And I'm talking all the way from the top. Like, clearly we all know just what impact it has on our country.
Yes, and in terms of not only the impact on the trauma on families and communities, but the impact that it has, for example, on the public health system. You know, we've been engaging with forensic pathology services and tertiary hospitals, and the deluge of gun-related patients that are coming in. Just to say that with the forensic pathology services as well, one of the things that they're noting is that when bodies are coming in, increasingly shot bodies, that many of these bodies are not just shot once, they're shot multiple times, which then increases their workload because every single bullet needs to be meticulously removed and documented. So it's like the knock-on effects are significant. Our criminal justice system, the lack of investment in our country, and government just doesn't seem to realize how serious this is and doesn't seem to have engaged with that. And part of it might be because gun ownership is such an emotional issue.
Okay, and I just wonder why. Claire Taylor, appreciate your time, researcher for Gun Free South Africa. So my question to you, I mean, should we seriously rethink not so much abolishing the use of guns, I hear what Claire said, but certainly get to a position whereby it is so regulated that it's that strict, and if you fall foul of it, you have a serious problem even by losing it. Yes, no, you tell me. This is the National Pulse.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and Help It Out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Help It Out took the family up to go and see the snow, and I got stuck. The service was quick, even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's
T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. With crime boss the Dean behind bars, the outlaws are moving on with their lives until one of their own returns with a deadly secret, hurling them back into mortal danger. Outlaws Season 3, Fridays at 9 p.m. Then, 3 fishing fanatics embark on the ultimate extreme fishing trip to attempt to catch some of the most elusive, hard-to-catch fish across the globe. Fishing Impossible, Fridays at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, certainly want to get your thoughts about South Africa and guns, and like seriously, what do we genuinely, seriously do about this? I mean, how can it just continue the way it is? And I made the point that if you're angry with someone at a nightclub on a Saturday night, and if you're angry and you've got no knife, all you can do is have a fist fight. If you have a knife, you can maybe try and attempt to stab one person. If you have a gun, and then before you'll be overwhelmed and overpowered by others. If you have a gun, well, then potentially you could wipe off 5 and 10 people, as people have done recently in South Africa, very, very easily. I mean, can we see the connection? It seems pretty obvious to me, isn't it? What about the connection between Donald Trump and the United Nations, particularly as the man Trump will take over the presidency of the USA in January, but he was in charge before, remember, and he had a policy then, and he will have a policy now. What's the differences? What are they like? Brooks Spector with me, associate editor at the Daily Maverick. Brooks, good chatting to you. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon. Good to be with you.
Thank you. So here's the thing. Firstly, how much of a change do you expect in Donald Trump UN policy then versus Donald Trump's UN policy now?
Well, I don't really expect much change in terms of the content of what he hopes for. The difference may be that his party and his version of his party, let's put it that way, will control the presidency, the Senate, and the House, and will make things easier for him to carry out his ideas, at least in legislative terms and financial and budgetary terms. And therein lies the real nub of the question, I think, for what you're asking about. It's no secret Donald Trump doesn't like the United Nations all that much, and he thinks the U.S. is treated unfairly there, both in policy terms and in budgetary terms. And for the latter, it's unlikely that there'll be much of a push to change the basic assessment. I mean, in other words, each country gets an assessment based, roughly speaking, on its gross domestic product and slightly modified. But then there are all the other ancillary agencies and special funds and special one-time contributions that are called for. And I think that's where Donald Trump really gets irritated and annoyed about. And you may well see much more resistance to the special allocations or calls for additional funds for this program or that program, for refugee programs in the Middle East, for example, and things of that nature. The basic national assessment, I don't think, is under any kind of real threat. And there's no real likelihood that the Secretary General's office is going to get a registered letter one day saying you have 30 days to vacate the premises and move away from New York. I mean, that seems in the realm of fantasy. Although there are obviously some people, who will say, "Gee, we should try that too." But keep in mind, he's named a Congresswoman, Elise Stefanik from upstate New York, as the new U.S. ambassador to the UN. And that person, let's be clear, that ambassador doesn't make the policy vis-a-vis the UN, just like any ambassador doesn't make the policy with regard to the country that they're serving in. They carry out the policy, dictates from Washington, in the same way that any ambassador does with respect to their home country and the country of assignment. But in Stefanik, what you have is a verbally adroit and effective communicator who, in the debates in the UN, either General Assembly or Security Council, is going to be particularly emphatic in making those positions. You may remember some months back at the congressional hearing in the United States over the way various university heads had handled the encampments and demonstrations about the Middle East. She took the lead in interrogating and pretty much reducing 3 university presidents to tears, which means she's pretty good at the interrogation. Add one more factor to this: she's ambitious. She doesn't want to be just a congresswoman or UN ambassador.
So who knows
where
she'll go? So I mean, here's the thing: amongst the points about Donald Trump and the United Nations in the past, the comment about we fund you, will potentially defund you. Then the issue of limiting aid to United Nations agencies, one in terms of relief, other in terms of even healthcare as well, right? And then the point you just made about the person's just appointed, right? So all that considered, who would make that call to effect any changes in US-UN policy?
Well, in this administration coming up at us from January 20th onward, there's only going to be one person to make that decision, and that's going to be the guy who sleeps in the White House and has his Oval Office there, and his name is Donald J. Trump. He's going to make the call. There'll be nobody in his administration who is going to be able to take on an issue like that without his explicit blessing.
And therefore, would we then expect a more bombastic relationship between the USA and the United Nations?
I think you're going to see pretty much what you saw the last time he was in charge. A degree of annoyance, a degree of irritation, a degree of, I don't want to say bombacity, but combativeness over any or all of the UN actions, votes, decisions that he does not like or agree with. Those kinds of things don't always translate into budgetary decisions, but they might.
Okay, let's see what finally happens. And I'm sure we'll talk about that sometime in January and beyond. Brooke Spector, Associate Editor, The Daily Maverick. And there you are. You may have your own opinion about Donald Trump and the United Nations, and Donald Trump then in the UN, and Donald Trump now, and how that may impact not just the UN, but its various agencies, therefore, and therefore even impact countries like South Africa and other countries around the world. Let's get the news headlines. It's just gone 3:30 years on Della Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In your news headlines, the SABC's Chief Financial Officer, Yolande van Biljon, has resigned, and Tendai Motore has been appointed acting CFO. Billion's final day at the public broadcaster will be on the 30th of this month. The bail application of diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg's wife Desiree has been postponed to Thursday next week. And environmental groups have denounced the presence of the oil executives at the UN's COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Braamfontein is slow moving towards Smith Street. The N3 northbound in Buccleuch has a crash reported after Marlborough Drive. All lanes are open. The M1 northbound has a crash reported at Woodmead Drive. Golden Highway in Devlin has a crash reported between the N1 Highway and East Street. And due to international cricket, South Africa will be hosting India in a T20 clash at Wanderers Stadium at 5 p.m. So you're asked to expect delays on local routes. In Bedford Parkview, the N3 northbound has a crash reported at Van Buren Road. The N12 R24 westbound is queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange, and the N3 southbound has a stationary vehicle reported near Van Buren Road. In KZN, the M13 eastbound queuing towards the N3 Paradise Valley interchange. The M7 westbound is queuing towards the N2 highway. The N3 westbound queuing towards Pavilion Shopping Centre exit. The M4 southbound has a crash reported near the Blamey and Jacobs Road exits. The N2 northbound has slow-moving traffic reported towards Queen Nandi Drive. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow-moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, sand on the tracks reported at Simonstown, so the train shuttle service between Fish Hoek and Simonstown has temporarily been suspended. The M5 southbound is slow-moving towards Krumbum Road, the M3 southbound queuing towards Rhodes Drive, the M7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 junction, and the N1 outbound slow-moving approaching Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Tell you what, to me, I live 5Ks from the SABC and 5Ks from the Wanderers, but I've turned in the wrong direction today, and you've at the right direction. You're at the Wanderers. Let's talk cricket.
Absolutely. I'm down at the Wanderers today to save their T20 International Series against India with a win in the fourth and final game here. And the world champions lead the series 2-1 after winning the third T20 at Centurion by 11 runs, a result which ensured captain Aiden Markram's unwanted record of never leading his team to a series win in the format would continue. And according to Cricket South Africa head of marketing, Wanele Mgomezulu, he says that they're expecting the Proteas to win today.
A definite win to square up the series. It's a sold-out affair, calling all the fans to come through. We definitely need to get behind our boys. India obviously has one up against us, so today we're literally leveling the series.
Well, we really wish the Proteas well today. Currently looking at them, they just went on the field, obviously just warming up, and the action is kicking off at 5 p.m. Meanwhile, prolific batsman Kane Williamson has been included in Newland's test squad to face England after missing their recent 3-0 sweep in India with a groin injury. Now, the former skipper will once again team up with veteran seamer Tim Southee, who will retire from test cricket after the 3-match series starting in Christchurch on the 28th of November. Williamson is Newland's greatest test run scorer with 8,881 runs. Now, in football, Bafana coach Hugo Bruce says that it's still important to finish the AFCON qualifiers as Group K winners. This is despite Bafana qualifying for a tournament with 2 games to spare since the country's readmission to international football in 1992. Now, Bafana are currently in action, and just to keep you up to date with what is happening in that match is 35 minutes in and it's still goalless, but this is what Bruce had to say ahead of this match.
First of all, I want to congratulate my compatriot Paul Pitt and Uganda with the qualification for AFCON for next year. So also from our side we are very happy that the qualification is there. It's a fantastic year for South African football after our bronze medal in the beginning of the year and now the qualification for the next AFCON. At the other side, does that change something for the game of tomorrow? No, maybe one thing, yes, that there will be less stress than if we still had to win the game tomorrow. But at the other side, I think we have our self-proudness. We want to win the game tomorrow. We want to end as first in the group. So that means that we have to beat Uganda tomorrow. So from that side, it doesn't change so much for us.
Big congratulations to Bafana and obviously wishing them well in this game. But still staying with football, University of Western Cape coach Tina Songe has described their last group stage match in the 2024 CAF Women's Champions League clash this evening as a final. The Cape Townians take on Jose Esfar, and a win will enhance their chance of progressing to the last 4, but they will also be hoping results from the other group match between Eagles and TP Mazembe to go their way. Then in tennis, Taylor Townsend got the United States off to a winning start in the Billie Jean King Cup in Malaga with a 7-5, 6-4 victory over teenager Renata Jamrachova. Now, in a hard-fought first-round match lasting an hour and 45 minutes, the pair swapped breaks of serve early on before Townsend made the crucial move in the 11th game and served out 30 to go in on front. In the meantime, Italian Yannick Sinner beat Russian Daniil Medvedev in straight sets 6-3, 6-4 at the ATP finals. Anything's off with rugby. Australia's Brett Robinson said it was a proud moment for him after he became the first chairman of World Rugby from the Southern Hemisphere yesterday and vowed to unify all different factions. The 54-year-old succeeds England's Bill Berman, who steps down after 8 years, and Robinson obtained 27 votes from 52 in the second round of World Rugby Council voting. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Ashraf, I'll definitely keep you up to date with what's happening here at Wanderers.
And that's what we expect. Nothing less from you, right? Thanks for that, Tumi. Right, let's get to some of the voice notes. In fact, here's a question. Good afternoon. Please update us on the AAM press conference against the MK party. Okay, your request is how we respond. We say yes to that. Bishop Mishak Tebe, he's our guest at 4:10, listening out for that. Okay, let me play some voice notes from you. I mean, many people have responded to some of the biggest issues we've raised. Always, what is it that moves the national pulse? The guns? Of course they do, don't they?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. It's Frederick Tracker. Mr. Ashraf, after Operation Valum Goti, I think we need Operation Valis Bam. We don't need these guns. All these shops that are selling these, toy guns, these air guns, Mr. Ashraf, they are causing a whole lot of trouble in the locations because the youngsters, they are using these toy guns to mark people. So we need this operation to get rid of firearms in the location.
Okay, you're saying bottom line, completely eradicate. Got that. I wonder if others agree. Another one, Ashraf, it's a no-brainer and a simple equation that less guns equals less violent killings, as we see in all the countries with less guns proportionately, starting with our neighboring countries from Farai. Well, yeah, that's how I see it. I just wonder, why do we have so many guns?
Guest there from Gun Free South Africa, whatever it is, tell them to investigate a tender for 9.8 million rand for 124 pistols. Now that works out to 78,000 rand a pistol. But if you go to the shop, you'll find that a pistol that a police officer needs and what the FBI use is only 10,000 rand a pistol. So now the tender has gone out for 124 pistols at 9.8 million rand. That equates to 900 pistols. So where are the pistols going that are not included in the tender, or how much money is being stolen from the tender? Mark from Cape Town.
Okay, well, again, very important issues. I think maybe that's another conversation we need to be having, which is the business of guns. Strictly that, the business of guns. Let's talk about the business of climate change. It's a big deal, I can tell you now. We'll talk about that next.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead. in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, we'll talk about Haiti just now, but let's get to Azerbaijan now, Baku in particular, for the UN Climate Change Conference, and, the acronym, the COP29. I remember what we had, COP16 or 17 in Durban, about 10, 12 years ago, right? So let's find out what's happened there. It's been fascinating. And the big issue is climate change and the impact it has on the world. And the other part of it is the big issue around nations, industrialized or not, and how they contribute to negative climate change and what more they need to be doing in terms of energy resources and not adopting any types of energy resources that actually harms the global climate. It's all very complex. Is it? I don't know. We'll find out. Thando Lukoko is the National Coordinator at the Climate Action Network South Africa. Thando, thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me, Ashraf. Good
Thank
to be with you.
Right, so of course, you're our eyes and ears at COP29. First of all, what's your general view in terms of some of the key takeouts there?
Generally, I think things are moving at a bit of a snail's pace, though, if I'm honest. There's three key conversation pieces, right? The first one is what's called Article 6, which speaks to things like carbon market. And carbon market is just the trading of carbon credits, or what you call, I don't know how to put it simply, but the pollution that's taken out of the atmosphere, you can trade some of that. So what are the rules around it? So that's one of the sticky issues. The second one, which is a rather major one, is on what's called NCQG, which is the getting of 1.5 trillion, 1.5 trillion US per annum, and how we might be able to get that. And then, of course, that speaks to us more directly, is the just transition conversation and some of the pathways for how we might be able to get there. So a lot of this stuff is still under some negotiation, but it is taking a bit of a while to kind of get us to a good landing zone.
Okay, so help those of us who don't fully understand what's happening. There's climate change, and we obviously see evidence of it. I mean, there's just so many examples of it, right? And there's been pressure on the economies and the countries of the world to say, hold it, you need to behave better, right? So who's doing what in terms of what are they being asked to do in terms of this, we need to behave better, and is that working?
Okay, the simplest way I could say it is countries that have typically made money off of burning of fossil fuels, so oil, gas, and coal, have been the biggest contributors to climate change, right? And so when you look at who that is, it's typically your global north countries, so your wealthier nations, G7 countries. And then it's largely affected more so the poorest nations and some of the poorer nations or developing nations of the world. So the idea is, can we then get those who are responsible to transfer money and technology and other resources from their countries to our countries so that we can be able to deal with the impacts of climate change. In real terms, that means if there is a flooding in Durban, as we know, or snow in Durban, as we know, and infrastructure is damaged, where's the money going to come from? Because we know the South African fiscus doesn't have the kind of balance sheets to fix all of those problems. And so the ones who are responsible for rather creating that problem need to contribute some funds and more funds than they have for us to be able to then rebuild many of our economies. And so that's basically the gist of what's trying to happen here. And so on all these other different streams, the key thing is the financing. So that's where this 1.5 trillion comes into effect. It's to some degree supposed to help us alleviate some of those problems and come up and pay for the solutions, essentially.
Okay, so is that demand working? Because, I mean, I can remember going back to the COP17 I alluded to in Durban. That was raised already at that time, and that's over a decade ago.
Yeah.
So is that working, keeping in mind some of the leading industrialized nations, in fact, are not signatories to the COP agreements, aren't they?
Yeah, the issue is the time. So it is working, it's moving very, very slowly, partly because you've got 190-something countries in the UN system that are trying to negotiate, right? And you can imagine it's a bit of a push and pull. Those who have the money don't want to take out more money. Those without the money are trying to get more money. And so that push and pull takes a while. And then obviously we're trying to talk about a legal instrument. And so the wording becomes key as well. And so you find that it takes a long time for us to generally agree on what wording that we will use that doesn't unduly impact one country over another, even though there's a very clear understanding of who's responsible and who's being impacted the most.
Okay. What about South Africa's role at COP29? I mean, what are our unique issues, and what did South Africa put on the table?
So South Africa is in a very unique position, right? Because if you look at number one, the continent is generally responsible for about 3% of all of the global emissions. South Africa, though, is number 12 in the world at the last I checked, and we're number one on the continent in terms of pollution. So we hold a bit of a responsibility over most of our African colleagues, but less of a responsibility in terms of the global landscape. So what we try to do is to position ourselves in such a way that with our strength as a country, we then use it to push for greater ambition, for greater commitments from developing nations, towards the transfers towards so-called global south countries. So what South Africa has put in there is definitely the need for financial support to come from the global north to the global south, so that it helps us to be able to build what it is that we want to do, but equally would have a knock-on effect for other countries who are far more impacted than we are. You can think of your Malawis and other countries that are really, really struggling to have money to pay for things.
Okay, interesting, your initial point, you said things are moving at a snail's pace. So is climate change moving at a rate faster than at the snail's pace? And if that's the case, where are we heading as a continent? Not a continent, as a globe, yeah.
As a globe. So yes, it is. I mean, you've seen it, right? The kinds of changes that we're seeing happening in a place like KZN are really, really scaling up. And this is the challenge that we're trying to fight, is how can we get these countries to recognize the urgency, and then with that urgency to be able to act with a similar level of urgency. And that's really where the struggle is. It's not happening. So the very real risk that we're running is that by the time we get to something that's workable in terms of a solution, the damage would have been so extensive that the solution that we get to is outdated, and it constantly requiring more money. And so this is the snag that we're in. Yeah, we're not doing enough at a fast enough pace to be able to really impact climate change impacts for communities, really, and people.
And is there one final point you wish to add in terms of maybe an elephant in the room that we're not aware of?
I guess the only way I could say it is that you probably won't be surprised to hear that it's typically the rich nations that are trying to block any which way where they would have to bear the responsibility for the damages that they've caused to the rest of the globe. And what we need to do as a people is to ensure that they recognize that it's them who are responsible for this, and that they hold their responsibility to do more than what we need to do as a country and the global south to be able to fix the challenges that we have in terms of climate change.
Okay, well, there you are. Lots of challenges, lots of problems, lots of issues being put on the table. Is real change effective? We will certainly have to observe that. It's been ongoing for a long time. And at this point in time, yes, the globe, climate change is changing at a rate faster than the snail space as we speak about. Thando Lukoko, who's the National Coordinator and Director at the Climate Action Network of South Africa, much appreciate your time. We'll talk about Haiti in a moment, but there's also an important announcement regarding the President talking to the nation next.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, so this is a response. We've been speaking about the issues of food security and concerns around food illnesses and around poison and other, airborne illnesses, right? And what has the President been saying? In fact, many have been critical to say, well, he's saying nothing. So with that in mind, note this. The President, Ramaphosa, will be this evening addressing the nation. That's today, 15th of November, regarding the government's response to the recurring instances of foodborne illnesses which have claimed the lives of many children. Now, the president's address will take place at 17:30. Or rather, let me get that right, 19:30 tonight. So 7:30 p.m., 19:30 tonight. Listen out for that. The president talks to you and I around foods and illnesses and poisons and people dying and what to do next. Okay, let's get to the other issue. There's been developments regarding security, particularly in Haiti. The violence continues in the capital, Port-au-Prince, after Haiti fired and replaced its interim prime minister amid political infighting and corruption allegations against members of a transitional council created to restore democratic order to Haiti. Does it sound very confusing to you? Probably is even more confusing to the people of that nation, right? Now, the Caribbean nation hasn't held an election, wait for this, since 2016. So, that is 8 years, and mainly because of what is called gang violence. So, what's happened now? Jacques Junior Baril is the Haitian ambassador to South Africa. Ambassador Baril, thanks for your time and connecting to us here on the National Pulse.
Well, no, thank you for having me, and I apologize if there's a bit of noise. I'm in a diplomatic event, but when you call, I always wants to be available so that I can give your listeners an update, as you've always been kind to our cause.
Well, that's a classic diplomat's answer, so much accepted anyway, right? Let's talk about what's the issue. What has happened in your country?
Well, I mean, the issue is not very different than the last time I've spoke here. We have a situation where our president was assassinated in 2001, if you want to recall. And I also want to mention the reason why there was no election is because the president was assassinated, because we were getting ready to go on election. It's not mainly because of the gang violence. The gang violence started really right after that assassination. The gangs were active even before that, but obviously we've never seen the level of violence that we are seeing today. Now we have a good part of the city, the majority of Port-au-Prince is controlled by gangs. So that's basically what the situation is as it is right now. And the fights we are seeing, it's mostly between gang themselves. But unfortunately, the people who are victims of that are the people of the population. Now you have a situation where all the government institutions are kind of weak because you had the assassination of a president. Then it took us a while to get it right by putting a prime minister, which then had a situation where he traveled and couldn't go back to the country because of the violence, the gang violence, but also the gang were targeting that government directly. We went to a transitional government after that with the presidential council, who then appointed a prime minister. As prime ministers in Haiti are really the one who are in charge of government. Then it was just it's been sacked on Monday last week, and we are now appointed a new prime minister. So I think, for all intents and purposes, I think we can say that institutions are trying to get it right, but it's very difficult to get it right when institutions are weak.
And at this point in time, while we're talking about this, I understand that many residents have had to flee their homes because of huge concerns around the fallout of these gang-related violence, right?
Yes. So there is a region. So what happened? You have a group of gangs who came together. They actually created a coalitions of gang, and they're the most powerful one. So now what's happening now is whatever gang they're feuding with, and the area where we're seeing what we are seeing, it's basically gang on gang violence, and so after when one attack one area, then the other one goes back and attack the other gangs who attack them. So last night, what we saw in Solino, which is a very popular a neighborhood in Haiti, it's a gang who attacked the gang there in Solino, and they put fires in houses. I mean, I'm getting the information as you are getting it yourself. Obviously, I'm getting a little bit more because I'm in the Haitian social media. But to be honest, that's all I can really tell you. We haven't received anything official from Capitol that I can speak on, but I can tell you that's from my observation and the people I'm talking to on the ground. That's what I have.
Okay, now, of course, one is that interim prime minister replaced. I mean, do you get a sense, and I know you're an ambassador, but is there a leadership vacuum at this point in time?
Well, I wouldn't say there is a leadership vacuum because there is a structure that was put together with presidential council who then appointed a prime minister. So the prime minister is already appointed. It was done very quick. He's sworn on Monday. He's putting his cabinet together. I think they've said by tonight we should have the announcement of the new cabinet. So I wouldn't call it a leadership vacuum. But what I would say though is, for as long as we are going into political turmoil and that type of transition that goes so often, it feels like a vacuum for if you're outside looking in.
I understand there was also a plane shot at recently. Tell me about that.
The one, sorry?
There was a plane shot at recently?
Yeah, so it was actually on Monday. There was a plane coming down, and it's an American airplane, and so the route that they were taking, so the gangs shot in that plane, and I think they were hit about 4 or 5 times. I don't have the numbers. Please forgive me for that. But yeah, they were hit to the point where the FAA have banned all flights to Haiti for the next 30 days.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. Ambassador Jacques Junior Barelli, Haitian ambassador to South Africa. Much appreciate your time. Let's move on to another issue. Well, the issues of guns certainly in this country has certainly fired the imagination. That's just like the wrong word to use, right? Fired the imagination.
Ashraf, gun-free country would work out. But now, not in our country, whereby the borders porous are so rife, whereby everyone does as he pleases. Foreign nationals or the foreigners just flocking into the country and then doing as they please, just like the Zamazamas having guns, you see, foreign nationals, and shooting people left, right, and center. So those 2 points exacerbate the situation. Thanks to Ilya Nkuma.
Got that. Here's a thought for you, right? What for you is a solution? I mean, just give me an absolute solution regarding the impact of guns in our society, number one. The other one is regarding, the Zamazamas. We've been chatting about it all week, right? What is the absolute win-win solution around that? If I can call it win-win, just overall win for the country, that is. What would be for you the win-win solution? Also, if you have any comments on Brooks Spector talking about Donald Trump's and the UN's and the U.S. relationship with the United Nations. Think about all of that. I can tell you we had this request before. There was a press conference from a group of people called the All African Alliance Movement, very church-based, where we chat to them. That's Bishop Mishak Chebe on the other side of the news, which is right now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela Imbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. SABC CFO resigns and Ramaphosa to address the nation on food safety actions. For SFM News, I am Ondela Imbana, and a very good afternoon. The SABC's Chief Financial Officer, Yolandi van Biljon, has resigned and Tendai Matore has been appointed acting CFO. Billion's final day at the public broadcaster will be on the 30th of this month. The SABC says in a statement that she contributed to the strengthening of the public broadcaster's financial position, which culminated in the achievement of an unqualified audit opinion for the first time in 14 years. The SABC board, management and staff extend their gratitude to Van Biljon for her contribution to the organization. Matore, who will be taking over in an acting capacity, is a chartered accountant who has an MBA in finance from Durham Business School in the UK. He has been with the SABC since 2017. President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the nation this evening at 7:30 p.m. about the recurring incidents of foodborne illnesses that have claimed the lives of a number of children. In the latest incident, 70 learners were hospitalized for a suspected foodborne illness at a school near Giani in Limpopo. They had complained of stomach pains. The SABC will carry the president's address live on its channels, including on radio, television, and online. The bail application of Diamond leader Louis Liebenberg's wife Desiree has been postponed to Thursday next week. The couple have appeared in the Brockensspruit Magistrate Court in Pretoria along with the 7 other co-accused. The case relates to a scam in which investors were swindled out of more than 4 billion rand. They were allegedly duped into investing into Liebenberg's company Terramix, which traded as Forever Diamonds and Gold, and another company called Forever Zircon. Kelvin Lutla reports.
Louis and Desiree Liebenberg appeared together in the dock. However, Liebenberg did not apply for bail. Desiree told the court that if released on bail, she will not flee the country and committed to cooperating fully with investigators. The Liebenberg 7 co-accused who were also in court are out on bail. The accused face charges including 42 counts of fraud, theft, racketeering and money laundering. The state is opposing Desiree's release on bail, arguing that she will threaten witnesses and that she is a flight risk. Calvin Lutla, SABC News, Brockensspruit.
Judgment has been reserved in the labour court matter between ArcelorMittal South Africa and the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa. Arcelor approached the labour court on an urgent basis to interdict the ongoing strike at its coke plant. NUMSA members have downed tools over job cuts affecting some of the company's operations in Vanderbijlpark. The strike action follows the company's decision to retrench 107 workers ahead of Christmas. ArcelorMittal South Africa argued that the mass retrenchment was covered in the collective agreement on dispute resolutions and that the workers should have opted for private mediation instead of strike action. This was challenged by NUMSA lawyer advocate Ashley Cook.
How can there be strict compliance with the collective agreement when the LRA makes no provision for a referral of this dispute? If your lordship says that we need to comply with the dispute resolution, we have the meeting and we can't resolve it, and then according to the strict compliance we need to refer it to the bargaining council, and the bargaining council is going to say they have no jurisdiction. What then? So how can this court order compliance with a dispute resolution process that is not catered for in the LRA? And that adds substance to the argument as raised in the answering affidavit, is this collective agreement does not make provision for strikes relating to the mass retrenchments, my lord.
The environmental groups have denounced the presence of the oil executives at the UN COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan. They were attending today's Energy Day. One campaigner likened it to tobacco at a conference on lung cancer. NGOs say at least 1,700 people linked to fossil fuel interest are in attendance. Speaking about the impact of pollution on global warming, the climate advocate and former U.S. Vice President Al Gore said it was time for governments to listen to scientists, not the fossil fuel industry.
The fact that the scientists who predicted all of this decades ago have been proven dead right should cause the rest of us to pay more attention to what they're telling us now. Do we listen to the polluters who don't want to do anything meaningful that might reduce fossil fuels, or do we listen to the scientists who have been telling us what we need to do?
Recapping the top story, the SABC's Chief Financial Officer Yolandi van Biljon has resigned and Tendai Motore has been appointed acting CFO. Biljon's final day at the public broadcaster will be on the 30th of this month. I'm Ondelambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, excitement building up for Proteas versus the India clash at Wanderers Stadium. Supersport United signs Samir Nukovic and Rassi talks up Bok Township tackler. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound has a crash reported at Woodmead Drive. The N1 northbound in Sunninghill has a fatal pedestrian crash reported near Rivonia Road. All lanes are open. The M1 southbound is slow moving through Crown Interchange towards Boysons and Stormfall Road in Pretoria, slow moving through Silverton Dale. In KZN, the M7 westbound queuing towards the N2 highway. The M4 southbound has a crash near the Blamey Jacobs Road exit. The N2 southbound has a crash after Spaghetti Junction and Umgeni Road westbound, slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. The M3 Philip Khasana Drive outbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions towards Upper Roodeblom Road. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and the N7 southbound has a stationary truck reported on the link to the N1 outbound. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Did you know the Freight Logistics Roadmap, developed by the Department of Transport in collaboration with Operation Vulindlela and approved by Cabinet in 2023, is a blueprint to tackle the crisis that plagues the logistics sector? It sets out an evidence-based path for reforms to allow economic growth and transformation. It promotes a seamless and cost-effective system, a modernized rail system towards the creation of jobs and effective infrastructure investment in both rail and ports. In cooperation with the National Logistics Crisis Committee, a coherent and integrated response to the logistics crisis is certain.
Brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, if we ask you the question, what moves the National Pulse, then certainly tell me, what do you think? What are the biggest issues that dominates the headlines today? What moves you? What gets your pulse rate racing upwards, always? The guns issue, definitely one of them, but there could be many others too, right? So how do you connect with me? 0614 104 107 via WhatsApp or text messages, or to call in 086 000 2032. Did I tell you that Ria Ledwaba is my guest after 5? And every Friday we have this feature called the Fireside Chat. So she'll be joining me on the Fireside Chat, and you can join us too, right? A different sort of putting out fires comes from the All African Alliance movement. We chatted to Bishop Meshach Tebe, the Secretary General of the All African Alliance, yesterday, in fact. And amongst many things that he spoke about, he was very critical of the MK party, saying that, of course, they were very much in alliance before, and then effectively, and I'm paraphrasing, were dumped. Well, he then promised us that they'll have a press conference today where, and I quote, everything about the MK party will be exposed. So that presser has come and gone. What's happened? Bishop Meshach Tebe, thanks for joining us and connecting to the National Pulse.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone, and good afternoon to the viewers and the listeners at home.
Okay, so everything about the party or the MK party will be exposed. What did you expose today?
Yeah, one, we have identified that the MK party, in the process building up to the elections, they used us and they decided to dump us as their garbage. And then two, we also identified that the MK party had been very spreading and fabricating propaganda about AAAM. A number of issues that were raised against us in our absence to their members has also contributed to the strain of the relationship that we had. So all the things that they have labeled against us, they know what they have been saying to our members have been able to tell us. Then we also then identify that they were very unfair in the process, that they never wanted to give us a hearing so that they can hear our side of the story. And above everything else, we found that, in fact, the person who did put us in contact with the MK party was the very same person, by then was an EFF member, which is Comrade Mzwanele Manyi, and he did that in good faith.
Okay, so now, after all of that has been said and done, the relationship, I understand, has broken down, right? I mean, we know that.
Yes.
All right. What are you hoping to get out of today's press conference going forward?
Well, out of today's press conference going forward, and then is to go back on an extensive consultative process with all our members that are now attached or affiliated to the MK party across all the 9 provinces to seek a refreshed or a renewed mandate as to say that they must now tell us what must we do. We have done with the press conference. We have answered the questions that they have wanted us to answer them, and they have also clarified as to say what happened. One of the critical issues that we identified in that process was the issue of the list process that brought us into conflict, of which the MK party was not honest in dealing with that matter publicly or through the leadership of Triple AM. So now it is up to the members of Triple AM to give us a mandate to say now what is it that they want us to do. They want us to hang into that relationship with the MK party, or they want us to go on our own. That mandate will come from the 9 provinces. From next week, we will be embarking on the program of consulting the 9 provinces.
All right, but early on you said they used you and they like sort of spat you out as garbage, right? So with that in mind, why would you even need a mandate from your supporters to decide whether you should stay within the MK party? And clearly the relationship is broken down completely.
Yes, it's a democratic process and a platform. We are opening up a platform so that people can express, because some of the people were not privy to receive the reality about what happened. So it's to give them the opportunity to express their views and what they know. We already have a situation whereby other members were accusing us to say that why are we quiet so long despite the insults that we are receiving. Okay. So it's an open process.
You also spoke about propaganda. I mean, what proof do you have of this propaganda you refer to?
Well, you would recall in one of the meetings that was held in Durban, we were accused of rigging the process of the list process. That is a complete propaganda. We have never been part of that, and we didn't do it on our own. Remember, every time you have to log in the details, you then use a code which was provided by IEC, perhaps, I don't even know. So we had no access to that code that was used to log in the details of the people that must go to parliament or whatever. So for us, it's very unfortunate and malicious in its approach to say that we rigged the process of the IEC list process.
Okay. You also, and I'm looking at your press statement, right? You speak about a series of meetings that took place last year between your organization, the All African Alliance Movement, as well as Mr. Zuma particularly, right? And then you say, during the December 16th last year, 2023 media briefing, strange signs began to show when the seating arrangements were not followed as per the protocol agreed upon. The 16th of December was then followed by the event on the 5th of January in which the AAAM openly endorsed Jacob Zuma as the face of the MK party. It was this initiative that saw the masses endorsing both the MK party and Mr. Jacob Zuma as the face, right? And then you then continue to say, on the other hand, we continued mobilizing religious formations to support the MK party for that 2/3 majority rule. And I can't read all of it, excepting to say you stay by your ground, or you stand by your ground, that in fact that your role, your party's role, was hugely significant in providing the momentum that the MK party now has.
That is 100%. We stick by that, and we've got evidence to lead that space. You can look at their footages all over. You will see that it was AAAM at the forefront, and that mass mobilization, which we had agreed with it in principle and in writing, it was like that. And we committed to it. And we fulfilled it up until the 29th. And that is when we saw things that were changing.
Okay, what then is the relationship with the MK party now? When I say relationship in terms of, there's letters, there's press conferences, but often there are lots of things that happens behind the scenes. Are you talking to each other? Are you talking to former President Zuma?
No, there's been no invitations that we have received from the MK party. Neither have we received any form of communication from them that would then show as to say that we might have, went over each other's toes. Nothing. The only attempt that we have tried was to try to reach them telephonically, and which also failed on many occasions. So far with their conferences, we are not invited with anything that they are doing. Neither do they mention us about anything. And that is where the things stand now. So there is no relationship currently as it stands between us and them.
Okay. In your opinion, What do you think? Why were your alliance, the All African Alliance movement, why were they sidelined by the MK Party when you provided the oxygen at the formation of the party?
I like what you are saying, that we provided oxygen to the MK Party. That is very powerful on its own. There's a number of factors that are contributed to that. One, it will be the fact of the list process. And then number two, I don't know if you can hear me, man. It's raining where I am.
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, continue. Yeah.
Yes. One, it is the list process. And then two, it is unconfirmed communication that happened in the absence of the leadership of AAM. For example, the meeting that was held in Durban and is one of the critical stages of that. And then three, it is also the lack of commitment and trust by both parties, or particularly the MK Party, to AAM. You would see in our expulsion letter that it was written that we were running a parallel structure, which caught us by surprise, in fact, because you cannot run a parallel structure in an organization that pre-existed before your own existence. So those are some of the things that I believe that they caused a strain.
But why would you be surprised at that when former President Zuma, who's part of the MK Party that you were in alliance with effectively, at the same time did that while he was a member of the ANC? So what I'm saying, the precedence of parallel structures and parallel leadership existed already.
Come again, I missed your point.
I was saying you talk about parallel structures, right? I'm saying why would you be surprised at that when the former president started the party of the MK Party even though he continued being a member of the ANC?
Let me clarify you on that one. We as AAM, we were surprised by that now being labeled to us. Remember, we were not MK members. We were AAM members coming into the MK Party, leaving behind our own structures and formations, bringing them over to the MK Party. So, in an essence, what it then says, it says that you cannot charge AAM members without consulting the leadership of AAM.
Okay. Lastly, there's been court action threatened from your side, yet you're still asking for a mandate from your supporters. And if the supporters say, yes, go and talk to the MK Party, what's going to happen next? Will you go and talk and actually stay within, notwithstanding all the things you've already said about them?
No. Look, in our spirit, in our prayers, in the midst of the pain and the confusion that we have gone through, it doesn't mean that all doors are closed. MK tomorrow says that they are willing that we go to a round table and negotiate. We are willing to participate in that process. It's a godly situation, If the devil had been a part in the process and the devil is now out by the window, then definitely so. By the grace of the Almighty God, we must be able to reconcile and build one united front together as South Africans.
Well, I've certainly heard that Hansi Cronje quote. Remember, the devil made me do it. That was a long, long time
Hansi
ago.
May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, let's end with this, right? What for you, and you got just 30 seconds to comment, what for you would be a win-win resolution between your party and your party followers? I'm not even bringing in the MK. What for you is a win?
Look, the biggest win is to create an awareness to our members that we've got this strained relationship, and it is for the MK Party to honor the agreement that we have with them and finish and clear. And the round table is the solution and the way forward.
Okay, I hope you guys are in the same WhatsApp group. I asked you that before, because sometimes a quick WhatsApp can just sort things out.
Yes.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Bishop Meshack Chebe, the Secretary General of the All African Alliance movement. Well, there you are. You wanted a response. You certainly have it. I wonder what you make of that conversation in terms of where the alliance is, what they feel about the MK Party, but they haven't yet closed that door. I wonder what you make of that. This is the National Pulse.
Bafana are fueled up to display a top-class brand of football to triumph on home soil, while the Bright Stars are going all out in their hunt for victory away from home. This is match day 6 of the Total Energies AFCON 2025 qualifier. Witness the beauty of African football. South Africa versus South Sudan on Tuesday, 19 November at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4, SABC 3 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so I wonder what... Any thoughts, any comments, whether you're an MK party member, whether you're a member of the All-African Alliance movement, in terms of that press conference and their statement and their pronouncements here on air in terms of what for them is a win-win? Do you think they have a chance of negotiating a win-win, or has that ship sailed? Well, either way, let me know. 086 000 2032. You know, we drive the conversations that clearly move all of us. So you tell me, WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. Ria Ledwaba coming up after 5 o'clock. Do not miss that. For an hour, you can join us on the Fireside Chat. Well, let's talk about private security companies now. The Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, and it's called PSIRA, hope I've got that right, has been conducting compliance operations across the country. The latest one being in Midrand, in the Gauteng, Johannesburg region. 2 days ago, the PSIRA carried out the same operations at the Southgate Mall, where 27 car guards were arrested. Now, out of the 27, 24 were Zimbabweans, 3 were South Africans. What does all this mean? I mean, what do we need to do to understand what they're trying to do? Impo Sahuaro is the Deputy Director of the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority. Impo, you are now connected to the National Pulse. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners too.
Thank you. So tell me about it. I mean, you've been on this investigation of sorts. I mean, what would be your bottom line in terms of, these compliance operations?
The bottom line is no one has to participate in the private security industry without registering with PSIRA. So whoever contravenes our regulations, then they get arrested, like it happened in Southgate Mall.
Okay, what then is, overall, what has been the role of your organization? I mean, there's you as a regulatory authority, there's obviously police, there's others. I mean, where do you fit into all of this?
Remember, Ashraf, we report to the Ministry of Police. Even though we are an SOE, we report to the Ministry of Police. And you may well be aware that the private security industry and the security officers are more than the police. So we are a force multiplier of the Department of Police. We work with the other law enforcement agencies. We don't work separately from them. That is why even in these operations, we collaborate with them.
So let's talk about these car guards. I mean, sometimes many people don't even realize where the car guards are registered or not registered. Do they need to be registered, and what has happened around them in terms of your operation recently?
Definitely, the car guards, they are responsible for safeguarding the property of the patrons of the malls. Therefore, they operate in our industry and must register with us.
But are these informal car guards? I'm just saying, because there's security officers, there's informal car guards where, whether it's and the streets and the malls, people just come and they help you park your car, although you can park it yourself, and they said they'll look after it, and they expect like a 5 rand or 10 rand or something like that. Is that what you're talking about, or something else?
It is exactly that. It is exactly that, because they protect your cars. I mean, they look after your cars so that there are no break-ins there. By virtue of safeguarding your cars, they are in the space of security industry. therefore must register with us. I don't understand what you mean by formal or informal, but they're doing some work protecting the cars of the patrons, as I said. Therefore, they must register with us.
Okay, but are you therefore saying that all car guards in the country must register with you, number one? And number two, are all car guards registered with you? So not just in the malls, but even on the streets. If I see a car guard, as I saw just now, when they help me park my car and then say we look after it, right? Are they part of your organization?
Yeah, car guards are part of our organization. And I wouldn't say all of them have registered with us. That is why the operation, when they were doing operations at Southgate Mall, they found out that some were not registered with us, hence they were apprehended. So they are supposed by law.
Okay,
supposed
they're
to
supposed
register
to be.
with
So
us.
what's the percentage
Yes.
of car guards who are registered? Because I'm saying to you, I don't have facts, but anecdotally, I think there are many, many, many car guards that cannot be registered. They just chommies looking for a quick buck, and we give it to them, and you know, it's a way of giving them money, and they say they look after it. They're not even trained to look after cars. If somebody comes there and tries and steal a car, I can't see them stopping them, really, with what?
Yeah, the industry is huge, Ashraf. It's huge. We have about 5.8 million registered security officers. But of those, about 700,000 are active in the industry. So I would not say that these are car guards, because the industry is broad. It's not only about car guards or what. We talk about CIT, we talk about different aspects of security. Those who install, for instance, the locksmith are also supposed to register with us.
I understand.
So the industry is really huge.
Okay, so back to the Southgate story. 27 car guards were arrested. 27 car guards, 24 Zimbabweans, 3 South Africans. How should we interpret that?
I don't know how you want to interpret it, but the first thing that you've got to know is that they were apprehended because they are not registered with us. And that is why they broke the law by not registering with CIRA.
All right, but it does get me thinking.
Let me explain this.
Yeah.
Because other security officers are aware that whoever operates in the industry must register us, are the ones who even inform us that go and check the people, that the malls are full of foreign nationals who are not registered with CIRA. And it's bad for those who comply with the regulation and pay the fees, and yet others do not do the same. So they are the ones who even informed us about this, about those car guards.
Okay, so finally, I mean, in terms of your organization, how many security personnel across the board, how many registered with you in numbers?
Those who are registered with us, as I said, it's 2.8 million. But the active ones are about 700,000.
Okay, got that.
Yes.
Okay. And outside of you, I mean, is there another industry body, or are you the only ones?
We are the only regulator in the country.
All right,
Yes.
so 2,700,000 active. Got that. Well, thank you for that information. It's really, I think it's very, very informative. Impo Sekhwaro was the Deputy Director of the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, PSIRA. What do you make of that? Very interesting conversation around car guards and who's not a car guard and who can do whatever. But I certainly want to get your experiences. By the way, what's your experience with car guards? You know, do you get a sense that they are compliant and registered and they front up, whether it's in the streets or in the malls, or do you get a sense that, as I have said, that I have a sense many of the car guards, really, they either that or they're unemployed, they're just chilling in the streets and they know that it's a way to make money. And I'm not saying it's bad, that's what it is. They're not really car guards, they're just minders, and you give them money while they're just keeping an eye on it. Anyway, I want your thoughts, if you have, to share it with me. Ondela Mbana is here with the news headlines. It's just gone 4:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, the SABC's Chief Financial Officer, Yolande van Biljon, has resigned, and Tendai Madore has been appointed acting CFO. Billion's final day at the public broadcaster will be on the 30th of this month. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to address the nation this evening at 7:30 p.m. about the recurring incidents of foodborne illnesses that have claimed the lives of a number of children. And the DA in Limpopo is calling on the Department of Education to investigate incidents of suspected foodborne illnesses in the province. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Tinewo Mtaung.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
South Africa hosts India in a T20 clash at Wanderers Stadium at 5 p.m, so expect delays on local routes. The M1 northbound in Parktown has a crash reported before Oxford Road. The N3 northbound is queuing towards Buccleuch interchange. The N1 northbound in Fairland has a crash reported before Bayers Naudé Drive exit, and Eskom Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction. The N3 in both ways is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The M4 southbound has a crash reported near the Blamey Jacobs Road exit, and the N2 southbound has a crash reported after Umgeni Road. All lanes are open. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Koeberg interchange. The N2 eastbound in Somerset West is queuing in Victoria Street. The M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Koeberg interchange. The N7 southbound has a stationary truck reported on the link to the N1 outbound, and Jan Smuts Drive southbound is slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, half an hour to go for a cricket match. To me, tell us all about it.
Absolutely, 30 minutes to go, and actually India just won the toss and they elected to bat first. And in terms of the fans, they are slowly but surely coming into the stadium here at Wanderers, Ashraf. Obviously it's South Africa versus India, and the Proteas are looking to salvage a draw. They currently trail the series 2-1. Then let's move on to football. SuperSport United have signed Serbian forward Samir Nurkovic on an 18-month deal. The free agent arrives at Matsatanta, having departed TS Galaxy ahead of the new season, and joins Ethiopian Abubakar Nasir in search for goals for coach Gavin Hunt. Now he has scored 30 goals in 72 starts for his various clubs in South Africa. Meanwhile, newly elected PSL Exco member Tim Sugazi has insisted that his addition to the committee is not about replacing the founding members. The TS Galaxy boss was voted into the position on the day Chairman Evan Koza's 4-year term was also confirmed. And Sugazi said that his arrival does not mean he, along with his other teams or the other Exco members, are there to take over.
It will be very irresponsible for one to declare that they are ready to take over from where the chairman has it, because it's still in the thick of things, and the likes of Dr. Motaung. It will be extremely irresponsible. All I would say is that in this type of instances, the taste remains in the pudding. You have to come in, you have to serve, you have to realize the kind of task that is ahead of you. The membership has given confidence in you. All I've done as a person, I'm taking all that with utmost humility, like I've indicated. But I know as much that I've got my job cut out. And you'll be pleased to know that I'm up for it. And failure is not an option.
Then let's just keep you up to date with what's happening between Uganda and Bafana Bafana. South Africa currently leading 1-0, 76 minutes into that match. Tapelo Morena scoring that only goal of the game and scoring it in the 49th minute. Then moving on to rugby, Rassie Erasmus expects Aphelele Fassi to stand strong as the last line of the Springbok defence at Twickenham on Saturday, which will be key to the longevity of his Test career. Now, Erasmus has given Fassi the nod in the Bok 15 jumper against England, a decision aimed at building his all-round skills in a high-stakes environment. Now, speaking in the build-up to this week's clash, Erasmus emphasized the need for the 26-year-old Fassi to face a big league opponent like the English to test his mental. Then finally, in tennis, American tennis player Francis Tiafoe has been fined 2.1 million rand for a furious outburst in which he repeatedly swore at the chair umpire during last month's Shanghai Masters. Now, the world number 18 was fined $60,000 for aggravated behavior on top of maximum $60,000 fine for verbal abuse. He also faced a suspension from playing, but the ATP opted not to ban the player. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect. And of course, when we speak to me, that game would have been, half an hour, 20 minutes old, just started. And then, of course, we'll be full into that game, South Africa versus India.
Did you know the Freight Logistics Roadmap, developed by the Department of Transport in collaboration with Operation Vulindlela and approved by Cabinet in 2023, is a blueprint to tackle the crisis that plagues the logistics sector? It sets out an evidence-based path for reforms to allow economic growth and transformation. It promotes a seamless and cost-effective system, a modernized rail system towards the creation of jobs and effective infrastructure investment in both rail and ports. In cooperation with the National Logistics Crisis Committee, a coherent and integrated response to the logistics crisis is certain.
Brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the numbers now with Paswane Mpatlele, the Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Right, give us an update on local and global markets, Paswane.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Well, Ashraf, market participants digested the latest growth data that was mixed coming global, with the UK GDP for quarter 3 disappointing, up 0.1 versus 0.2 in the prior quarter, as pressures of output played a role. Japan also recorded a 0.3% growth, but slowed, but still welcome despite the fragilities reflected in the stock market, as they still expect rate hikes to filter through. Eurozone growth is expected to grow at 0.8, which is a positive, and they seeing it improve in 2025 above 1% on a better economic environment when you think of rates and inflation. Meanwhile, China was stabilizing, being the highlight was retail sales up 4.8 thanks to the improved consumer sentiment, stimulus efforts, but production did soften, housing prices eased in the right direction, and investment was unchanged, but we saw this development supporting our resource sector and some commodity prices. Other market moving developments was in the US, with the Fed signaling that there is no rush into cutting interest rates as the economy is still growing above potential growth. This saw market decreasing probability of a December cut and going into 2025. And this was supported by the latest retail sales that were above expectation. Of course, this raises the inflation concern going forward. But traders generally going forward also will be continuing to watch the Trump cabinet following his control of the three houses that should potentially make it easy for policy changes. We know the likes of efficiency is there on the agenda, which will be led by the likes of Elon Musk. So cutting of everything is on there, but it looks like it's on the agenda, and that means the likes of cutting government spending that has been supporting the U.S. government in recent times heavily, and that would have a negative effect on labor growth. Reflected in the bond yields we've been seeing, they failed to go any higher than what we've seen in July. But this won't be easy for them to be practical in terms of this Trump idea, because the Republicans have appointed John Tuan as their Senate leader, and investors will generally just be looking forward to who will be in the Treasury, which is yet to be announced. Equities are taking all this development in a light way. We see the US are making a big drop from their highs. Nasdaq down 1%, S&P down 0.6, Dow down 0.3. Europe, FTSE is flat, DAX CAC down 0.3. Locally, we've stopped. We did a stop on their losses. We are seeing we're flat thanks to the resources rebounding 1.4. Industrial financials were down. Gold prices up 0.3 at $2,573 an ounce. Platinum up 0.3 at $942. Brent is down 0.5 at $71.85. Looking good for us there. The robust rand, in addition to the dollar easing on policy digestion, sees the rand trading for rather fairly better. The rand is at 18.16 against the dollar, 19.16 against the euro, 22.96 against the pound.
Right, that's it. So we'll have a chat with you on Monday, not even tomorrow.
Yes.
Have a great weekend, right? Okay, there we are. Lots of comments from many people. Among some of the biggest issues we've raised, because always you ask that question, what for you moves the national pulse? Well, what about the Triple AM? Annette Presser, they just had. Alfred in Mpumalanga, you have a view. Go ahead. Hi.
How's it?
I'm good indeed. Go ahead. How are you?
No, I'm fine, man.
Right. Your thoughts?
I'm listening to that man speaking about Triple AM and Umkhonto Wesizwe.
Yeah.
I want to put it very categorically clear. That might speak like that, whereas they are the one who committed serious mess for MK. Like now in Mpumalanga, MK is under a serious mess because of a leader of a triple AM. I prefer to lead the process in Mpumalanga, leading. I mean, to a degree of developing a preferred list to legislator.
Yeah.
All what we've seen the list of almost people of Emalasheni only. With our best performed region, Gersibande, is not accommodated at all. Now the organization is currently on a serious mess because of their leaders, SSSSSSAA.
So where do you think this will end up? Where do you think this will end up then?
Sorry?
Where do you think this will all end?
I think all what should be done for now is that they should come down, not pointing the message on the leaders of MK, but then pointing the message on their own leaders from the triple AM. I should think if we can take that direction, we'll be able to talk about this matter, because the organization is in serious mess currently in Mpumalanga because of their leader.
Okay, got that. Thank you. Well, you certainly raised an issue, and I wonder whether others would concur with you. Here's another comment about the AAA.
I'm still laughing to myself. Afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. Hey, Triple AM is playing. Triple AM is playing. Zuma has crippled the country, a whole country alone. And Triple AM wants to play with Zuma. You're going to cripple the Bible out of them now. Wait and see. It will teach them never to sell their country out. Hey, where have you ever seen a snake sleeping? Snake never sleeps. Hey, Tata Zuma.
Hey, you got a lekker laugh, man. I'll tell you something. I want to play this laugh again, just the first bit, because it's that good, okay? Seriously. Here you are.
I'm still laughing to myself. Afternoon, Ashraf and SFM listeners. Hey,
you see, there we are. You've got the laugh. I don't have to say anything else, all right? Well, there's comments about, another comment about the MK party.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Umkhonto Wezi's party has become a beacon of hope for majority of South Africa, and the biggest threat to other political parties like ANC. Triple AM is used by other political parties to fight Umkhonto Wezizwe and try to destabilize and defocus Umkhonto Wezizwe. That is their case, and they will not win. Umkhonto Wezizwe will remain focused and continue to be a beacon of hope for majority of South Africa. It's Shotis Nyolen Mafefe Limpopo. Thank you.
Okay, Shoti, thank you for that. But you're very confident about that. You certainly are. What about the car guards?
Yeah, Ashraf, in as far as car guards are concerned, we as motorists just take chances by trusting them, because they are not written on the faces whether they are registered or not. So we are actually at risk as motorists. So yeah, it's a big problem really. It's a tough question to respond to, so to speak. Thanks. It's Willie in Kuma.
Thank you for that, Willie. I tell you what, I don't have evidence myself, but many people talk about the car guards that are there because they need a job and they're not qualified. They just stand there and then they're running around and they get $5 a time or $10, depends how much you want to give them. Then you get the other car guard who actually then is able to monitor how long you're going to be away and then effectively passes that information on to a potential cook who's going to steal the car. And you get the third one who's the genuine car guard who wants to really look after your car. But honestly, they're not capable in terms of they just don't have the capacity. I mean, they're just not armed. They're not trained for that.
Yeah, Ashraf, in as far as car guards are
All right, wait. Let's get to that. There's another car guard one I'll play later on. There's lots of... Okay, we'll get to that one just now. Hopefully we get another one on car guards, right? But so you do... And there's another one that... And I think linked to the conversation we had earlier on.
Please ask your guest, did Mzwanele Manye organized the members to work with MK whilst he was in the EFF or after? Can you please ask that question? I think it's interesting.
Yeah, he said while he was in the EFF. I mean, that's my understanding of the statement, okay? And I also made the point to him that, by the way, you're talking of these parallel forces. In fact, Zuma was still a member of the ANC at the time as well. Like, can you see how confusing life is? It really is.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm a little bit confused here. So is Triple AM a political party or is a religious structure or organization? I'm a little bit confused here. Thanks. This is Zatechi Nambange.
I think it's a godly party. So is what they suggest, if you can interpret that, right? Okay, there's more. I'll check it. There's another call or two, but here's one about another story about the church and politics.
Good afternoon, Mr. A. I think that guy, Shem, it's what I would call a joke of the century. First of all, you can't mix state and the church. It's not in the Bible. So I don't know, they are mentioning God here, God there. God cannot be involved in politics. I don't know which Bible is he reading. That's why even ZCC is not involved in politics. Yes, they allow anybody to go and do and say whatever they say, but they are not involved. So it's a shame for... somebody's calling him a man of God. To come and say that, and then now he's disappointed. No, he's not a man of God. Sorry, shame. Pastor, Cape Town.
Okay, but you know what? Even with even from the same religions, there are different interpretations, and maybe you think not, but maybe others feel it's absolutely fine to be a man of God, and then still be part of a politically driven organization. Where does someone like Bishop Tutu fit in, for example? I know he's not part of a party, but you can't deny the role that he played, definitely so, in mobilizing forces against apartheid South Africa.
Ashraf, good afternoon. I am Tagata in Cape Town. I would like to applaud the response of the Minister of Police and his team in that saga of Stilfontein. Our government, I can tell that, or can say that, they are held ransom by us, with the communities, because whenever there are these criminal elements in our locations, nobody is reporting them. Yes, I'm aware we are fearing our lives, because should you go report, you are going to be killed. But when the government is going to be held at ransom like this, I'm not happy, because the resources that were supposed to be used somewhere to help the innocent people are diverted now to help the people who force themselves to go underground, knowing that there are consequences to go underground illegally.
Okay, there we are. I mean, that story, I think there must be new, fresher angles we need to cover even next week, okay? Mzwandile is a truck driver. Go ahead. Hi.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a truck driver. I used to be a car guard myself.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, to that lady who you just checked to. I want to ask her, what do they do for the car guards? Because now the car guards, they must pay SIRA. What they provide for the car guards?
Well, she's gone now, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's part of a regular. They're basically suggesting that you have to be registered with them, and without that, you don't have what they do. Okay, maybe this is my guess. Is they give you the accreditation that verifies you as a car guard. Without that, without their accreditation, you're not a car guard. That's according to her. The reality is, I know and you know, there are thousands of people who are car guards who are not belonging to any organization whatsoever.
Yeah, that's correct, because as I used to be a car guard myself, you don't just pay for somebody and he or she doesn't do anything for you. It's supposed to do something for you. Some way or other.
Okay, got that. Thanks for raising that, Mzwandile. And here's another comment. Hello, these car guards you're talking about are big business to some people. like Fidelity Security Companies, center security managers, for them to have them, they must pay them every day from 25 to 35 rands. It's foreigners' business. Thank you to SAFM Radio you are speaking to us from Cape Town. In fact, where are you listening right now? Two things. Where are you listening and what's your weekend plans? I've got Ria Ledwaba coming up just now, okay?
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom. Reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Edo Queens of Nigeria want to graduate out of Group B with a distinction against reigning champs Mzansi's Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. However, Banyana Style believe the full-time score will confirm why they are the African queens of the beautiful game. This is the CAF Women's Champions League. The West battles it out with the South. Moses Aduku versus Jerry Chabalala. Witness the excitement of African women's football. Edo Queens versus Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. The Saturday 16 November at 7 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right. In fact, there's a comment about today's big family meeting. It is, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I wonder if the president was going to address the nation if it was not because of the pressure from the public regarding the food poisoning. Thanks from Andile in Willowvale, Eastern Cape.
Thank you, Andile. I wonder, do you think that's the case? So you see, here's the point. If the public didn't apply pressure, then we're saying maybe he would not have done so. If they apply pressure, then he does it. Does that show good leadership or poor leadership? Does that mean he's bowing down to our wishes? That's bad because he's just weak, or does that show strength because you actually are in touch with your people? Well, somebody can explain to me what leadership really means, okay? But anyway, that State of the Nation address on food poisoning, effectively 7:30 tonight. Let's talk about other issues, and there's a rethinking of policy in the era of artificial intelligence. So let's talk about that. In fact, Professor Willem Fourie from Stellenbosch University, he participated a few weeks ago, in the Meta Open Innovation AI Research Community Annual Research Workshop at Matter's London offices. Okay, let's find out what came out of it. Prof. Willem Fourie, thanks for your time in connecting to the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So, I mean, the broad issue of rethinking policy making, from where to where?
Yeah, so the challenge, it lies on two levels. One is the policies needed to enable and to govern AI, and the problem is the artificial intelligence technologies are developing so rapidly that you need proactive policy making to address it. So that's the one point. And the other dimension is actually using AI and AI tools to improve policy making throughout the policy making cycle. And that's the two things at least I looked at when I attended.
Oh, I see. So that's interesting. So what then came out of it?
Yeah, so a bunch of things happened. Maybe I'll take a step back and just explain what this whole thing was all about. So Meta, of course, is the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, the technologies most of us use every day. And they've created an open research network, basically. It's about 30 or 40 of us from around the world, US, Mexico, South Africa, where we think of both the development of large language models, so that's the stuff that powers ChatGPT, and the application thereof. And sort of my perspective was, I was obviously part of I actually lead the working group on AI and policy making in this Meta group, and we focus on how AI can be used to improve policy making. And there may be one point on that is policymakers deal with a lot of words every day, documents, speeches, reports, and the newest AI technologies actually can help them make sense of these things much quicker than the case was before AI.
Well, I mean, that in essence would mean a game changer, but that could be a game changer after the event, as you said, when AI is an enabler. But before it becomes an enabler, the policy around what AI can be allowed to do in the first place is what you're discussing as well, right?
Yes, that's the other component. And there you need to keep two things in balance. Of course, you need to regulate AI. You need to make sure that it's developed in a responsible fashion. But at the same time, you need to enable it. Because policies that restrict the development of AI such that society can't reap the benefits is of course, also not the policies that are in the best interest of society. So that's that very fine line that needs to be tread. And one of the conclusions, and that's a project we're doing research on now with people from around the world, is what mode of policy making do we need to make the most of AI, both to enable it, but also sort of govern it to ensure that it's to the betterment of society.
And the answer to that question, what mode of policy making is needed? What came out of that?
That's a $1 billion question. So certainly one of the things is one that policymakers should be in much closer contact with the AI experts. They need to be up to speed with what is called the frontier AI technologies, and they should already be prepared and prepare policies for that. That's one thing. And the second thing is we need policies that are developed and that are updated much, much more rapidly. So policy making, business as usual, when it comes to AI, in my view at least, won't cut it.
Okay. Well, did anything else jump off the page in terms of your coming together that you as delegates never thought about before? Because I would think the industry is so dynamic, things change by the minute in this case.
Yeah, indeed. So I think one of the big developments is what they call sort of open large language models. Now, for those of your listeners who aren't nerds like myself, an open large language model is basically the stuff that powers OpenAI, ChatGPT, that you can export, but you can download it to your own machine, provided it's strong enough. So ChatGPT, Claude, all those things run through servers of the companies, but there's a movement where these models are made available for free to public. Anybody can download it and then customize it for your own use. And that's what Meta did. They actually made their model open. And that's one of the big developments. Why is it a good thing? A little bit more transparency. If you do it well, it can be safer. Privacy safeguards can be a bit better, and you can customize it for your specific context. So that's one of the big things that jumped out for me.
Okay, let's leave it at that. In fact, I'm sure it's a conversation we'll have a whole lot more about down the line. Professor Willem Fourie, the Chair of Policy Innovation and leads Stellenbosch University's Policy Innovation Lab. Thanking you for your time about this broader issue of rethinking policy making in the era of AI. Wow. All that's happening in front of your very eyes. Let's get the news. In fact, by the way, Ria Ledwaba coming up after 5. Let's get the news at 5.
Thanks, Ashraf. With the news, I am Dino Motaung. Let's take a look at the headlines. SABC CFO resigns and Ramaphosa to address the nation on food poisoning. The SABC's Chief Financial Officer, Yolandi van Biljon, has resigned and Tendai Matore has been appointed as acting CFO. The SABC says in a statement that she contributed to the strengthening of the public broadcaster's financial position, which culminated in the achievement of an unqualified audit opinion for the first time in 14 years. The SABC board management and staff have extended their gratitude to van Biljon for her contribution to the organization. In other news, President Cyril Ramaphosa will address the nation this evening at about 7:30 about the recurring incidents of foodborne illnesses that have claimed the lives of a number of children. In the latest incidents, 70 learners were hospitalized for suspected foodborne illnesses at a school near Giyani in Limpopo. They had complained of stomach pains. The SABC will carry the president's address live on his channels, including on radio, television, and online. Meanwhile, the DA in the province of Limpopo is calling on the Department of Education to investigate incidents of suspected foodborne illnesses in the province. DA spokesperson on education, Jack Small, says most schools in the province do not have proper kitchens where school nutrition meals are prepared. Small says the department must ensure that schools comply to the health and safety standards.
The Democratic Alliance in Limpopo has written to the Education MEC, Mavungu Lerure Ramakanya, calling for the urgent implementation of suitable health and safety measures in the province's school nutrition program to prevent cases of food poisoning. All of the 273 sites visited by the Department of Labour onto the Department of Education were found that the Department of Education were not compliant. The department must investigate the circumstances around this most recent incident and ensures that service providers and schools comply with the Health Standards Act at all times.
We move to the Eastern Cape now, where the Buffalo City Metro has temporarily closed its popular Eastern Beach due to a safety concern as parts of the beach were washed away, exposing rocks. This has also led to parts of the road and pavement being eroded, and there are fears it may collapse. Metro spokesperson Samkelo Ngwenya.
The safety and security cluster, including teams from beaches, amenities, engineering, disaster and traffic, conducted an on-site inspection this week to determine the extent of the damage. The Metro is in the process of undertaking an impact assessment study to find a solution and determine the impact the situation will have on animals, humans, plants, soil, water, air, climate, and the landscape in general. The beach remains unsafe, and as soon as conditions change, which we hope it's sooner than later.
Lastly, U.S. President Joe Biden has arrived in Lima, Peru to participate in the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit ahead of traveling to Brazil to attend the G20. Sean Bryce Peace reports.
Biden's travel as his term in office ends is seen as part of his farewell to world leaders after over 5 decades in U.S. politics. All this while President-elect Donald Trump asserts himself back at home with key and at times controversial picks to serve in his cabinet. Biden is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in Lima tomorrow to discuss bilateral, regional and global issues. Biden will then travel to Manaus and Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, where he will visit the Amazon rainforest, a first for a sitting U.S. president, before joining other world leaders for a key G20 summit in Rio.
Recapping the top story this hour, the SABC's Chief Financial Officer Yolandi van den Biljon has resigned and Tindima Torre has been appointed as acting CFO. The SABC says in a statement that she contributed to the strengthening of the public broadcaster's financial position, which culminated in the achievement of an unqualified audit opinion for the first time in 14 years. Headlines at 5:30 for SAFM News. I am Dino Matong.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported before Giluli's interchange. All lanes are open, queuing traffic on both routes. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. Santon Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N4 Witbank Highway westbound in Pretoria has a crash reported before the N1 highway. All lanes are open, and South Africa hosts India in a T20 clash at Wanderers Stadium at 5 p.m, so there'll be heavy traffic delays in the area. In KZN, the N3 in Pinetown is slow moving at Marion Hill Toll Plaza. The N2 northbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction. The N3 in both ways is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. The M4 southbound has a crash reported near Blamey Jacobs Road exit, and Chris Hani Road southbound is slow moving through Briodine. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. Marine Drive northbound is slow moving towards Loxton Road. The M7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is queuing towards the R300 junction, and the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
And coming up in your sports this hour, SA versus India underway. Bafana beat Uganda in AFCON qualifier, and Siad Ramovic, new head coach of Yanga.
The Senegalese team Aigle de la Medina are on a mission to play terrific football to collect maximum points. But DRC Queens TP Mazembe believe the only way forward is a win. Yet on another battlefield, South Africa's University of the Western Cape have a humongous task to silence North African side AS FAR Rabat. This is the Group A doubleheader of the CAF Women's Champions League. Witness the excitement of African women's football. Aigle de la Medina FC versus TP Mazembe FC, live on SABC Plus, and UWC Ladies FC up against AS FAR Rabat Ladies FC on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 15 November at 7 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
Bafana Bafana are coming to Cape Town to play the final qualifier against South Sudan at the Cape Town Stadium on the 19th of November 2024 at 6 p.m. Come early, dressed to support Bafana Bafana for a chance to win prizes. Gates open at 3 p.m. and tickets start from 60 Rand for adults with special rates available at 30 Rand for children under 12. Scholars in uniform and students with student cards at all Ticket Pro outlets. If you can't make it to the stadium, catch the game live on SABC2 at 6 p.m. or visit sabcsport.com. For more details, visit safa.net and Bafana Bafana on X and TikTok.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, if you left some messages now, we can't take your calls now, only because it's a Friday, not because we don't like you. Certainly welcome your feedback. And by the way, please do, follow me. Follow SAFM Radio on social media, but follow me, Instagram, Twitter, or the X platform, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Across the board, you can certainly do that. And I'm saying that because it's a great way to engage with you, and it'll be wonderful to connect with you in various forms, right? And to give us feedback about what we do on the show here, The National Pulse. I'll really appreciate that. Now, every Friday, we have a guest, and we chill with that person for, effectively just under an hour. And we've had some fascinating guests. We had Geraldine Fraser-Moleketi a couple of weeks back. We had Naledi Pandor, who, as you know, will deliver the SAFM lecture. What's it, next week, Thursday? And I hope you're going to be there, because I'm certainly going to be there. So we'll do that. We've had... We have the chairperson, Mteto Nyati, the chairperson of ESCOM last week, and a brilliant leadership conversation I had with him. Well, today it's the turn of Ria Ledwaba, and she'll join me, connected online. Sometimes we're in studio, but she's online. And we're going to spend, 45, 50 minutes here as part of the fireside conversation. So, Ria, good chatting to you, and, thanks for joining us here on the fireside chat.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the invite, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So I want to ask you this. When people see you, there's no question you are one of the most recognized people in South Africa. And that could also have a lot to do with your hairdo, because it's certainly it's ensured that you position your brand in the most unique way. I mean, nobody could forget you, right? So when people encounter you in public, how many of them ask you about Ria Stars?
Well, that question comes every time I'm in a mall. I would be stopped and they would ask me about when am I bringing another team. I've disappointed the province of Limpopo. Those are the kind of conversation that I have when I'm in a public space.
Okay, I mean, that just shows you a tremendous love that they had for Ria Stars. So how then do you respond? What do you tell them? Is that yes, that club is coming, or is that history? Okay, I think we've just lost connection just for a moment. Let me just try and sort that out. Of course, technology being what it is, we'll try and sort that out. By the way, feel free to suggest, besides now speaking to Ria Ledwaba today, who else should we be featuring in this Friday Fireside Chat? Are there people of prominence that you think, hey, you know what, please get them on board? We only do it every Friday, so it's not that easy to do it every day. So it's 4 people in a month. Which one of the four people, the next 4, up to the end of December, and then in January we should be speaking to? I think we've reconnected. So Ria, yes, I was asking you when they tell you about Ria Stars, it does tell you that their love for the club. How then do you respond to them?
Yeah, I always say to them, once a footballer, always a footballer. They must just watch the space. I can't say we can't have another team, but I always say, look, there were challenges that we faced as a team, and you guys would not come to the stadium. I mean, those are some of the things that make someone to decide that I'm giving away the team. Because if I had the support that is needed, full stadium, I wouldn't have taken that decision. But I always say, when Chiefs and Pirates play, you would be sitting at home watching TV and not coming to the game. So don't blame only me. We must also blame ourselves as supporters. That did we really give the support that is needed for the team?
It's a good point. I mean, if you fast forward to now, so you don't have the club anymore, do you think that will change anytime soon? Meaning, not just your club, but most clubs. There's a huge dependence on Chiefs and Pirates, for example, and now Sundowns, compared to any other club. Many other clubs struggle every single season.
Yeah, it has been like that. I mean, the smaller teams will always struggle, but I think after 2010, we have seen a lot of improvement in terms of the grants that the teams are getting. So if you have the kind of grants that they are getting on a monthly basis, and you have a sponsor, or on top of the grant that you are getting, I think we will be fine. But the team should know that sponsors out there, they want their name, their image to be protected at all times, so that there are no scandals. Players understand that also, that they can't go on a scandal spree and while you have sponsors. So I think there is an opportunity for those smaller teams to be able to be funded by the market out there.
What are you doing with yourself right now? Like, meaning, in terms of what's your job description now? Don't say unemployed. I don't think so.
Well, I established a Ria Ledwaba Foundation. Mm-hmm. It's a foundation that I want to give back to the community, especially in sports. I've realized that there are young boys and girls in the rural area that will never come up because there is nothing for them. They don't have funding, they don't have the network to be able to go through the ranks. So that's why I'm concentrating with Ria Ledwaba Foundation, and also the gender-based violence. There are many young girls that are abused, in the sporting industry, and they are unable, they are afraid to go and report the cases, and that's why the reduce of gender-based violence will be no way. We need to be able to encourage them to go to the police station, to be able to open up a case, to support them, to make sure that those abuses that are seen in the sporting industry are minimized.
So how is your foundation changed people's lives? So is your foundation changing people's lives? How so?
I think so. I think it has done so. It started around during the COVID. Unfortunately, there was nothing we could do there, but we have done a lot of other things with the old age home, the other foundations that are there, the churches that are there. We have gone on a campaign of blankets. Blankets campaign where in winter our older people don't have blankets and all that. And we have seen, the pleasure when people receive those blankets. But I must also say there are two young boys that we have identified, one from Bochum, Lesego, 13-year-old boy, talented, the talent that will amaze this country. But he's right there staying with his grandmother. So we identify that boy. We're trying to make sure that he gets assisted with equipment, with the soccer boots and all that, and take care of his schooling, make sure that he can go to an academy that can be able to grow him to be the champion that I think he is. And there's another 16-year-old boy that has got so many trophies. Every tournament he plays, he has got trophies from Zibediela. So we are looking at those young two boys, and we want to get more girls and boys to be able to groom them and make them champions.
So well, I love building champions every single day, because I always say if you to build a champion nation, you need to build a champion people. So you need to find people to become champions. Just give us those two youngsters' names again, because I think somebody in the country is all going to be listening. It's like, who are those people? So those two names very quickly.
We have Lesego Mokoka.
Yeah.
He's a grade 8 learner, 13-year-old. We have got Sepiso Matlopela, 16-year-old from Bochum.
Sepiso Matlopela and Lesego Mokoka. Okay.
Mokoka.
Got that,
yes.
Absolutely. Right. What have you been following the Bafana game today? They won 2-0.
Yeah, yes. Because I was at the office, I couldn't watch them, but I knew they would come with the result. We have a better team now.
There you are. I would have watched on my cell phone. I mean, that's what most people do anyway. No matter what no matter what they do, right? Let's talk about. I mean, clearly, a lot of your career, besides being in football, in recent years has been moving into leadership within SAFA. I mean, where are you now between yourself and SAFA and SAFA leadership? At one stage, you even contested the leadership of the organization.
Remember, I contested the presidency in 2022, and I lost. Maybe I shouldn't say I lost. I said I don't think there were elections there. But that's where it ended with my football participation. But I was then appointed to lead the women's committee in the Confederation of Limpopo, the Sport Confederation in Limpopo, and I've been busy there until the recent election where they elected a new committee. That's where I have been. But I'm running a training academy in the air conditioning business, so that's where I'm based on a daily basis.
I understand, but you said you don't think you lost. You don't think there was an election. What do you mean by that?
I mean, before you go for an election, there must be an opportunity for you to speak to the voters. So there was never that opportunity. So if you don't have an opportunity to speak to the voters, how do you then get voted when you get in. So that opportunity was not there. The elections were brought forward instead of happening at in August. They were brought forward to June. But I was never allowed to go to the region, the 52 regions, to go there and speak to them and say why I'm challenging the current leadership. So you for me. It was just a show, but I don't think really there were election because I never had an opportunity to engage.
So maybe according to you, that word free and fair doesn't apply to your SAFA election. We'll get further comments from you as we continue chatting here on the Fireside Chat with Ria Ledwaba. Great to connect with you all the way up to 6 o'clock.
The Senegalese team Aigle de la Medina are on a mission to play terrific football to collect maximum points. But DRC Queens TP Mazembe believe the only way forward is a win. Yet on another battlefield, South Africa's University of the Western Cape have a humongous task to silence North African side AS FAR Rabat. This is the Group A doubleheader of the CAF Women's Champions League. Witness the excitement of African women's football. Aigle de la Medina FC versus TP Mazembe FC. Live on SABC Plus and UWC Ladies FC up against AS FAR Rabat Ladies FC on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 15 November at 7 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is back. After receiving hundreds of entries last year from South African writers of different ages and ethnic groups sharing their stories, now the time is yours. It's your story. You decide. SAFM invites all writers to explore the medium of sound, the theatre of the mind, and to create a 1-hour radio play in English. Get writing now and submit your play before the 3rd of February 2025 for a chance to win one of 3 large cash prizes. For more information, visit safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Chatting to Ria Ledwaba. Now, certainly going to talk to her about her own journey, from being a young girl to where she is today. And we'll do that in a few minutes' time. I just want to nip in the bud the whole SAFA story. What do you think is the state? So you're out of it now. What do you think is the state of SAFA now? Because, there was a reason you stood and you were very critical of it then. What's your thoughts on SAFA now?
Yeah, well, football it's dying on a daily basis. There is no football. You go to the regions, football is not played because there is lack of funding. The grants are not coming to the regions. The local football association, where I believe that's where we should concentrate. There is no funding. Those LFAs, that's where you have under 5 boys, 10-year boys, 11-year boy, 12-year old, but there's just nothing. That's why if you go around the country, you'll see a lot of competition where people have taken an advantage of no competition at South African Football Association and create making money to do those competition. Easter, there's competition. December, every holidays, there are a lot of competition all over. So football is gradually dying. It's gradually dying because we are not focusing on where we should be focusing, which is the local football
But that's sort of
association.
bizarre. This is a country that's hosted the 2010 World Cup, the only country on the African continent to have done it, and yet we say football is dying. So even 10 or 14, 15 years after the World Cup, you're saying it hasn't captured the imagination. Hey?
What is it there to show after the World Cup for the football industry? Let's go to the LFA. Do we have anything that we can go to the LFA and say, this is what we have done? We don't even have offices. There's not one single region that has got its own office. They are renting all the time. Shouldn't we, with that 400 and something thousand rand, shouldn't we have built at least offices of all those 54 regions and some fields where they can be able to make money and the juniors can play there and pay? But we continuously hiring the venues from the municipality with what? The teams don't have the money to hire that, but they continue to sponsor the teams in South Africa. In the South African Football Association are actually sponsoring the association. That is why there is also a decision that the players must start paying for playing football. Where have you ever heard of such a bizarre thing in the world where now players, when we know that they come from the poor of the poorest, now you want those players to come and pay to play football in South Africa.
So at the time you stood against Danny Jordan for the presidency. Obviously, you didn't see much. You had no faith in the leadership. You certainly had no faith in his leadership. I mean, he's currently being investigated. We know that. Do you still have no faith in his leadership?
Yeah, well, it's not. Remember, we have the National Executive Committee. You know, the president is just the chairperson in there, but you have the whole executive. Currently, I believe there are more than 49 there. You know, so. I'm saying the debates are there. When I was there were debates. I mean, the debate, for example, Ashraf, of why should the teams pay the referees at the game? Why shouldn't that be the responsibility of the association? But it continues, but it's things that you talk about, but there are no implementation after the decision that we take. I'm sure there are many decisions that were taken in the executive that were never implemented.
And that's such a
we need to come up with some management system to run SAFA. You know, the constitution is in a mess. You know, where in the world have you ever seen a constitution that is changed every election? You know, to suit certain individuals. So that constitution of SAFA need to be, you know, football people need to have an indaba. You know, go for 3 days and look at that constitution until they have a constitution that they can keep for the next 10 years without changing it, because it was a decision of the football people in this country.
What's the one good thing that came out of the 2010 World Cup for South Africa?
Yes, there were some of the legends that took bursaries and graduated, and there were some there were funding. In fact, if you look at it, this funding of the grants for the regions actually came from the Legacy Trust. So at least there was some funding that would go to the regions, and the regions will be able to run football in their region. But for me, there should have been an infrastructure, you know, offices with some fields where the association, the regions can be self-sustainable. You know, they can be able to make money from football, but they taking money that they don't have to go and book the field, and you know, there's just so many things that I believe we could have done, you know, with the Legacy Trust funds.
Okay, well,
that has just been depleted in less than 10 years.
Well, you've raised such important issues. I'm going to pause on that at the moment because I want to go back to your own journey, personal journey, away from actual football. Ria Ledwaba is my guest, so former SAFA vice president, but also former owner of Ria Stars, right? But maybe time for 3 calls maximum. If you get on short, sharp calls, that's all we can afford in terms of time. 086 000 2032. This is the National Pulse. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Daneo Matau.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 5:30. Civil society groups have called on National Treasury to reconsider its role in advancing socio-economic, human and children's rights in its budgeting process. In other news, the Health Professions Council's inquiry into Dr. Phophi Ramathuba's controversial comment to a patient from Zimbabwe at Bilabila Hospital has been postponed to August next year. And Lebanese officials say at least 12 rescue workers have been killed in Israeli attack in the northeast of the country overnight. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Edo Queens of Nigeria want to graduate out of Group B with a distinction against reigning champs Mzansi's Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. However, Banyana Bastyle believe the full-time score will confirm why they are the African queens of the beautiful game. This is the CAF Women's Champions League. The West battles it out with the South. Moses Aduku versus Jerry Chabalala. Witness the excitement of African women's football. Edo Queens versus Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. The Saturday 16 November at 7 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Sunninghill has a fatal pedestrian crash reported near Rivonia Road. All lanes are open. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Stormful Road is slow moving through Silverton Dale. Eskiam Patleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. And the N4 Witbank Highway westbound has a crash reported before the N1 highway. All lanes are open. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a crash after Spaghetti Junction. The N3 in both ways is queuing on the link to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, and the M7 westbound queuing towards the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kubik interchange. The N7 southbound is queuing towards Voortrekker Road, and the R304 northbound is slow moving towards Botlaray Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, from one sort of sport to another, we are chatting to Ria Ledwaba at this point in time. Of course, remember, she's our fireside chat that we do all the way up to 6 o'clock. In the meantime, let's get connected to the Wanderers Stadium where Tumi's there. 1 wicket has fallen, but overall, goodness man, we're on the back foot.
Absolutely. India currently sitting on 73 for 1 in the fifth over. Obviously, that wicket just falling now, and we'll definitely keep you up to date with what is happening over here at Wanderers Stadium. However, in some other exciting news in football, Bafana claimed a 2-0 win over Uganda in the AFCON qualifier clash. Tapelo Morena scored in the 49th minute with Patrick Maswangai in the 89th minute. The win takes South Africa top of Group K with 11 points after 5 games. Then former TS Galaxy coach Siad Ramovich has taken over the coaching job at Young Africans SC a few days just after parting ways with the Betway Premiership side. Ramovich is taking over hot seat at Yanga to replace Miguel Gamondi, who was fired after losing 2 matches in the Tanzanian League. Yanga are currently sitting second on the league table, heading Simba, who are occupying that top spot with 25 points. Then still staying with football, the University of the Western Cape coach Tinasonke Mbuli has described her last group match in the 2024 CAF Women's Champions League clash this evening as a final. The Cape Townians take on host AS FAR, and a win will enhance their chance of progressing to the last four. But they will also be hoping results from the other group match against the Eagles and TP Mazembe to go their way. As things stand, AS FAR are on 6 points, while UWC and TP Mazembe have 3 each, and Medina are on 0. This is what Coach Mbuli had to say.
It will be very irresponsible for one to declare that they are ready to take over from where the chairman has it, because it's still in the thick of things, and the likes of Dr. Motaung. It will be
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
In rugby, Rassie Erasmus expects Aphelele Fassi to stand strong as the last line of the Springbok defence at Twickenham on Saturday, which will be key to the longevity of his Test career. Erasmus has given Fassi the nod in the Bok 15 jumper against England, a decision aimed at building his all-round skills in a high-stakes environment. Speaking in the build-up to this week's clash, Erasmus emphasised the need for the 26-year-old to face a big league opponent like the English to test his mettle. Erasmus also highlighted that Fassi's selection over veteran fullback Willie Leroux, just 2 appearances short of becoming the 7th Bok Centurion, is part of the long-term plan. Then in tennis, American tennis player Francis Tiafoe has been fined 2.1 million rand for a furious outburst in which he repeatedly swore at the chair umpire during last month's Shanghai Masters. Now, the world number 18 was fined $60,000 for aggravated behavior, on top of the maximum $60,000 fine for verbal use. With that said, it is a wrap from my side.
Thanks for that, Jimmy. An update on the cricket score then: 77 now for 1 India, and that's after only 6 overs. So the run rate is 12.49, which is massive, okay? They had a big score against South Africa in the previous game. This could be another big score at the Wanderers, or what they call it, the Wanderers Bullring, right? Well, more to come. We're going to connect to Jimmy right after this. In fact, we're going to go to traffic first, yeah.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
All right. In fact, Jimmy says no, he'll pass the traffic of the business of traffic. So, Jimmy, go ahead and tell us.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. It looks as though we're closing out the week in red territory. Most of the markets, especially the U.S. markets, finishing in the red. We'll start with Asian markets. They would have been trading first. The ASX in Sydney and the Nikkei in Tokyo, the only markets finishing in the green for the day. South African markets tried to rally as well, but if we look at European markets, they were all flat, marginally in the red. The CAC 40 was the worst of the European performers, about 0.25% down. If we have a look at the South African markets, the resources counters finally made a comeback, up 1.8% for the day, but it wasn't enough as the industrials were down 0.5% and financials were down 0.33%. The all-share finished flat, about 5 basis points in the green. The top 40 was down about 2 basis points, also finishing flat. If we look at commodities pricing, the Brent crude price, $72.04 a barrel, not too concerning there because the rand is getting stronger. So we're not expecting petrol price increases at the moment. Platinum and palladium pricing kind of mid-range, $950 an ounce there, below $1,000, so we'd want to see more from that going into next week. The gold price is at $2,566 an ounce. hasn't done much for the day. It was around this price yesterday as well. Quick look at the currency side of things. $1 US will cost you 18 Rand 22, 1 British pound 23 Rand and 1 cent, 1 euro 19 Rand and 20 cents, and 1 Australian dollar 11 Rand and 75 cents. Bitcoin still below $90,000, $88,000 coin, around the 1.6 million Rand mark. I don't know if we'll get to 2 million before the end of the year, but we'll keep an eye on that. We did have quite a bit of data come out from the various regions throughout the world. We had CPI from the US come out. We've had interest rate decisions. So we are getting through the last bits of the data, preparing for the end of the year. People are starting to wind down positions. But we close out the week in slightly positive territory, although the month is in negative territory. We'll see how the next week shapes up. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. And of course, you have the pleasure of a nice, lacquer weekend, and we'll talk on Monday. Perfect, Jimmy Muyaha. No SFM market update on a Friday. Remember that. But there's a feature that talks about the best things of the news this entire week that comes up from 6 o'clock. So do not miss that. Right, Ria Ledwaba with us. She continues. She's the Fireside Chat guest. And now we reconnect. So I did say there's maybe time for 3 calls maximum. If you do want to call in, this must be short, sharp, to the point. 086 000 2032. And the focus really on calling in, it would be very much on her leadership journey, because I mean that's really the part that I want to emphasize. So if you're up for that, that's absolutely great. So Ria, let's talk about that. I mean, tell me about your early days and the early influences in your life.
Well, I've been an A+ student from primary school. So I have been a leader from there. I've been elected the president. When I went to the university, I was also the leader in my class. So wherever I went, I find myself being in the leadership position. That's my journey throughout my life.
And your home community, where's that?
Yeah, it's in Bulovedu, in Medingen, right there on top of the mountain next to Khapani Township. That's where I come from.
I mean, do you have pictures of you on top of that mountain? I'd love to see those pictures, man.
Maria, when I grew up, I can send you a lot of pictures of this young.
Well, we want to tweet it out. So when you get a chance, maybe just tag me, Ashraf Gand. I'll certainly do that. Would love to share that. And when you were this young person and achieving in school, I mean, what sort of ambitions did you have then? Like, did you know there's a world bigger than being on top of the mountain with a beautiful view?
Not really. My ambition was to be a lawyer. That's what I wanted to be. But unfortunately, during our time, your parents will choose for you. So they chose for me to be a teacher. So I had to go and go to a college for being a teacher. And of course, I taught for some few years, and that was not my passion. And that's when I started establishing the team with the under 10 and the under 12 boys, then the under 19, then the under 21, and then finally Ria Stars. That's where it started. And in 1999, I was working for government in the Department of Traditional Affairs as a deputy director, and I decided to quit, because I wanted to follow my passion, which was football.
Okay, but the other passion you could never achieve, which is the law passion.
Yes, because I was, there was a choice by my parents, my mother, that I should do teaching, which was not my passion. And during those times, we never used to argue with our parents. When they say something, it is done. They want it.
So I was going to ask you, what did they say? Why teaching above law? But are you suggesting that you didn't even ask? You just said, yes, boss, effectively.
I didn't ask, honestly, and I still ask myself, why would my mother want me to be a teacher when she was a nurse? Why didn't she decide, or I should be a nurse? Maybe I should have kept that profession of nursing, because I'm a servant. I've always been a servant.
And now, upon reflection, when you think back about, I mean, obviously the law degree is the one that got away, right? When you think back about the fact that you didn't pursue law at all, how do you feel about it?
Well, not really a deal, because I had to do public administration at the University of Limpopo. I did that, although I haven't really gone through to use that certificate where I would want to. Yes, I can use it now in my businesses where I am, but it was not a big deal that I didn't have that. I think one of my passion was football. So, and I wanted to be the first woman to have a team in the Premier League. and I think I was one of the two that was in the PSL, and I wanted to be the first in Limpopo, and I was the first in Limpopo, and I gave myself 10 years to from where I was in the Champions League until the Premier League. I gave myself 10 years, and in the 10th year I was in the Premier League.
I think, if I recollect, it is obviously yourself, and I think Nastasia Chiklas would be another person who was very prominent in terms of running a club, right, Sundowns at that time. Why did you feel that, it was important for you to, what is the bug for you about football, even as a young girl, and then hey, I want to not just enjoy the game, but I want to actually manage a club and own a club in the highest leagues?
I came from a family of boys only, and they all played football. And my interest was there was a lot of talent that I see every day, and that talent was not nurtured. If there are no competition, there's nothing that they will do. So I decided, and it was not even my decision, it was the boys that saw my interest into football coming to my house to say, Mama, we want you to register us in this under-21 tournament. And I said, but a tournament you play, and when you are knocked off, there's nothing more. Can we do a league? That's when we were registered in the Impala League of South African Football Association.
Oh, quite fascinating. Wow. What for you is now your unfinished business? I mean, do you have other dreams that you still want to achieve?
Yeah, well, maybe going back to the basics and be able to assist in making sure that the football in this country it's played in the first place, and young boys and girls out there have an opportunity when they are still young. My interest would always be in the school sports. We haven't done much in terms of school sports. I think that's where we lacked in terms of development of football, because in a school you find all age groups that you would want, but in an LFA you might not find all age groups. So it's my interest, and we have legends. I've got a very good interest on the legends of this country that are neglected in most cases, and I'm saying, what is it that we can do with the legends? What platform can we create for them to be able to assist in development of football in our country? And I think they've got a larger role to play in the football industry.
Well, there you are. Rial Edwaba with me as part of the Fireside Chat here on the National Pulse. 086 000 2032 if you want to say hi, particularly if you know her. You never know who may just decide they want to call in. Would you stand in for the presidency of SAFA once again?
I wouldn't say I would stand, but if the members believe I'm capable to lead them, they will decide that, and I will make that decision when I am approached. I never want to be a person who says I want to be the president. It is the members that must be able to decide who they want to them to lead the organization, and take it from where it is and take. We cannot have a country where in 1995 we were the champions of African Cup of Nations. 20 years later, we haven't even gone to the final, of the champions. So we need to come to a point where we are consistent. We can see the boys that are in the Bafana now, they are being consistent. Banyana, for me, they have been, if they had more funding, I think we should be carrying a lot of trophies from them.
Let's take two quick calls. In fact, I'll take one quick call now. What we'll do is we'll talk to you, John and Makwena, right after this.
The Senegalese team Aigle de la Medina are on a mission to play terrific football to collect maximum points. But DRC Queens TP Mazembe believe the only way forward is a win. Yet on another battlefield, South Africa's University of the Western Cape have a humongous task to silence North African side AS FAR Rabat. This is the Group A doubleheader of the CAF Women's Champions League. Witness the excitement of African women's football. Aigle de la Medina FC versus TP Mazembe FC FC, live on SABC Plus, and UWC Ladies FC up against AS FAR Rabat Ladies FC on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. This Friday, 15 November at 7 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Centre. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, this is an Eskom message, and it's just for you. You know this, right? Eskom has been calling you to look into having your meters recoded by the 24th of November. So if you don't do that with your prepaid meters by that date, then effectively you can't get, you will not get any power. So what do you need to be doing, right? Eskom says, well, they've made it easy for you. So what you have to do is the Eskom itself have pre-coded all the meters. So what you simply have to do is get to an Eskom-approved electricity outlet, buy the credit token, and it should be a case of voila. And if you have a problem with that, then the Eskom teams are on standby to help you. You got that?
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's get to Makwena in Rustenburg. Hi, Makwena.
Good evening. How are you, my brother?
I'm very good. Good to connect with you. Go ahead, Makwena. I'm sure you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to
Most
Ria?
definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
Just a word of encouragement to Cecilia Lidwaba for the work that she has done. Not only just her together with Usisma Tomazala. You can see soccer when it's been run from a distance. It's never an easy thing. Myself, I have a team in the ABC league. It's not easy, but you can just imagine with a person like her as a woman in the Premier Soccer League. So we really want to applaud her for the work that she has done for the people of Limpopo at large, and for women to stand and to come out and pave the way for women who are coming in. I remember very well when the teams were 18 and she had to relinquish or sell her status early somewhere around there, and it was not an easy task. I remember people were saying, why is she selling and all that? She said, people, they cannot understand. It's not easy to run soccer. In as much as it looks glamorous, but it's not easy when you're within. And also to say that one of the person who wished that she can stand for the presidency of SAFA, and most definitely I would love to have her as the president and Lucas Radebe as the deputy president.
Okay. Well, then let's get Ria to respond to that if we can. Very quickly. Ria, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Mkwena. Remember the nomination are from the members. If the members decide that they would need me to come back and bring football back to the basics, I'll make that decision at that time. But thank you very much. I have traveled the journey of football. I've traveled from the lowest to the highest. I didn't buy a status. I went through. I know the challenges that we are facing as ABC Motsepe, the traveling, when you don't even receive the traveling allowance that you should get. You have to dress the players, you have to feed them, you have to transport them to training. I know how difficult it is to run a team, but thank you very much for the encouragement.
Okay, lovely call there. Let's get another, here's a voice note.
Yeah, good evening, Ashraf. Ashraf, I want to ask Lidwaba this question. In as much as we say Danny Jordan, Nassau State, he's welcome at SAFA, what does she think of the election of Ivan Koza as the PSL chairman unopposed? Thank you. This is AK from Pretoria.
Okay, got that. Ria, Ivan Khoza, unopposed PSL chairman, which is the professional league.
Like I said, elections is members who nominate. So, meaning the family of the PSL decided to nominate him unopposed. They have members there that they probably they could have nominated. The fact that they've nominated him unopposed, it tells you that there is something that he's doing there, that the members of PSL are very satisfied that he's doing what they would want him to do.
Yeah, what do you think of Ivan Khoza giving Kaiser Motaung the 2 million rand bonus for good service to football from the PSL?
Kaiser is a veteran, and I think he indicated of the hard work, the journey. It's not an easy journey for all the teams that are there, but for a person like Kaiser Motaung, it's somebody that should be celebrated when he's still alive. And I think he was just simply giving him that gratitude to say, you have done it for so long. In football, he has never given up. He's still standing. We see Kaizer Chiefs from where it comes from and to where it is.
Okay.
I think it was not a matter of just giving that gratitude.
All right. Now, you mentioned already 2 younger people that you've given a shout out to, those 2 footballers, right? Tshepiso and Lesego. So that's another thing. But is there someone that you would like to have a seat at the table with? You know, lots of people would love to meet you, but who's the one person you would love to meet with and have coffee with, a seat at the table and have a good chat?
I would want to have a seat on the table with Relebohile Mofokeng, the young player, the year-old player of Pirates. I think I haven't seen that kind of skill. When I look at him playing, and especially when he's in front of the goals, I've never seen that kind of talent. I would want to have a seat on the table with him.
Oh, they are Pirates players. I tell you what, Themba and Keys both will be smiling away. They're both Pirates supporters. Absolutely right. What about in terms of the reasons for your success? You know, often when we look at like your template for having achieved and other people don't achieve, is there a way that you've been able to set goals for yourself and achieve them in time frames compared to many other people? I mean, can you share that with us?
Yeah, the smart management system where, you know, when you plan, that's what I did when I started Ria Stars. The plan was very specific. I was specific. I said I want to have my team in the Premier League in 10 years. I put that specific and say in 10 years, and I put the time frame in that. And there were measures. I put measures in place and say every year I'm going to measure whether I've achieved. And I could measure it because I was in all the competition.
So measurement helps you be successful. Is there a book you'd recommend we must read?
I'm sorry?
Is there a book you'd suggest we should be reading, all of us? Any book?
Definitely. Purpose Driven Life. I think that book changed my life.
The Purpose Driven Life, yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people don't read. You don't read it all. You read one chapter a day. It's a 40-day journey. It will change your life.
Purpose Driven Life. There you are. What is your purpose?
My purpose is to make a difference in other people's life. And the foundation is one of the platforms where I believe I will do that.
Okay. And then finally, I mean, our time is up. I can't believe it, right? How would you like to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as someone that has made a difference in other people's life. I strongly believe that when you say you are successful in life, you must be able to look behind you and show. I can show you have. I've got so many names that I can show that comes from my hands, come from the platform that I've given for the players to be up to the Premier League.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we could talk longer, but my time's up, and you, more importantly, you need to get back to your real purpose, which is making a difference in other people's lives. So off you go. Good talking to you. Really privileged to connect with you and you sharing your gold nuggets about your own leadership journey, which I think has been very, very admirable. So thank you, Ria Ledwaba, the one and only, right? Thank you for your time and spending time with me on this fireside chat this Friday. Thank you, and goodbye and good night. Well, that's the show. We'll do it again on Monday. Remember, we have another fireside chat guest next week, Friday, from 5 to 6. But right now, in the hot seat of the news desk, here's Daneo Mataung.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories: civil society bemoans Treasury's austerity measures and 12 rescue workers killed in Israeli strike in Lebanon. A very good evening. Civil society groups have called on National Treasury to reconsider its role in advancing socio-economic human rights and children's rights in its budgeting process. They argued that increased austerity measures run the risk of deepening poverty and inequality in the country. National Treasury's head of budget says South Africa's spending on social protection, which averages 4.6% of GDP, is the highest among developing countries, which average 1.6% of GDP.
The cost